Welcome everyone to the regular open council meeting of today, August 18th. And I welcome everyone in the virtual gallery and the in-person gallery here at council chambers. I will note that Councillor Hambrick is online. Is that correct? Councillor Dale sends his regrets. And I'll start off by, for thousands of years, that the abundance of the lands of earth, that the earth's lands and waters provided us to live, work, and play, is due to the ecological wisdom, stewardship, and the reciprocal relationship that the world's first people have lived and live today. I'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the shared ancestral territory of the Ktunaxa and the Secwepemc people. And Golden is also home to the Métis Nation, Columbia River Society, and other diverse Indigenous heritage. We're grateful to have the opportunity to live, work, and play in this territory. Ms. White, are there any late items?
There are no late items.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to item 3 on the council agenda, which is the adoption of the meeting agenda as presented. Looking for a mover, Councillor Routley. Looking for a seconder, Councillor Guillot. Are you okay? Yeah. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. We will do something when you hit the floor. Okay. On to item number 4, which is the adoption of the minutes of the regular open council meeting that was held July 21st. Looking for a mover of those minutes. Councillor Guillot, second by Councillor Manuel. Council, any errors or omissions in those minutes? Seeing here none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And we also have the record of the public hearing that was held on July 21st. Looking for a mover of that document. Councillor Cooper, second by Councillor Routley, I guess. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. In council, was there any business arising from those minutes that is not going to be dealt with in the meeting today? I got that look. I wasn't sure. With that, we'll move on to item number 6, which is delegations. And today we have Tourism Golden Executive Director Andy Brown who will present the organization's 2027 to 2032 strategic plan. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me. Yeah, I'm here to. Sorry, I thought I was doing that. I am here to give a little summary of Tourism Golden's 5-year strategic plan, and as we move forward, for those that are unaware, every 5 years to remain the designated DMO for Golden and the CSRD Area A. We need to complete a 5-year strategic plan, get support from our stakeholders as well as the town, CSRD, submit that to the government, and once they like it, we can continue. It's a lengthy process, and this year with the upcoming municipal election, we just wanted to get ahead of the election and not be coming in at the last council meeting before that happened. So with that, there we go. So we started this process several months ago with one-on-one interviews with key stakeholders, online forums with groups, local organizations, and nonprofits, including an online survey with stakeholders and residents. We also had several strategic sessions with our board of directors. And we also had which isn't on here, but a lunch and learn with several members of council, which was really good. It's following one of our strategic sessions to give a little preview of what we were doing in the direction that we were headed. With that, our 5-year strategic plan, what I'll do is I'll go over don't want to go into the 27-page document. We'd be here for the entire time. So we'll stick to the high points of our updated vision, mission, and purpose, the inclusion of a purpose now. For the vision, we've always said as a community at Tourism Golden that we align with the local view on sustainability and local aligned values. Luckily for this year, we continue with that, but with the update of the OCP, we actually have a current document that we can point to when people ask, well, what are those local values? So with the community vision of Golden as a resilient, inclusive mountain community that stewards its natural environment, supports a diverse and local economy, and delivers a high quality of life today and for generations to come. It allows Tourism Golden to update our vision to Golden inspires value-aligned travelers to connect deeply, tread thoughtfully, and experience the spirit of a community shaped by the mountains and people who call it home. Next, what we didn't have before is a purpose. And we realized through the engagement that not every community member really understands the role of Tourism Golden. And by including a purpose in our 5-year strategic plan, we really have words to point to show what the organization, the purpose of the organization is. And what we came to is Tourism Golden's purpose is to lead our community's destination marketing, management, and stewardship programs so that tourism makes a positive contribution to our natural environment and the social cultural fabric of our home. We invite visitors to share our community's values, to join us in stewarding our natural environment and in celebrating our mountain culture so that together we build a resilient local economy that contributes to a high quality of life for today's residents while protecting opportunities for future generations. We really want to look into the future at Tourism Golden. It's not about the now and the next year down the road. It's really making sure that the tourism economy is viable for years to come and really benefits the local economy and the local resident. From there we go. We move on to our mission. Tourism Golden works collaboratively to execute destination marketing, management, and stewardship strategies that contribute economic and social benefit for our community. With this, we now have broken down our mission into 3 key pillars. That's the destination marketing, management, and stewardship. Destination management and stewardship were generally lumped together in the past and still are in other areas. And we were always known as a destination marketing organization. Rolling back to coming out of the pandemic, we really realized that it's no longer our role is just to market the destination. It's to manage the destination as well. By splitting this up, and we've worked on, I should say, we've also have a destination management plan, which now we will move forward with updating as well. But by splitting up management and stewardship, we can look at it through 3 different lenses. So marketing, traditional, what we've been doing is the lenses of a targeted traveler. That's going to be our marketing campaigns. Understanding through data research, we understand who enjoys Golden, where they're coming from. We can target those individuals that have the same values that the community has. So active, attract value-aligned travelers to Golden. Number 2, destination management is through the lens of the visitor, that individual who's now here. So we're going to support and enhance the quality of the visitor experience once they're here. Those are programs such as, in the past that we've worked on, the Golden Shuttle, which we partner with the town and Kicking Horse on. We have our Golden Guide, where we educate locals and frontline workers on what there is to do in Golden so that when the visitor is here, and if they happen to ask a random person on the street, they have a better understanding of what's available in Golden, where to go, where to get the proper information, and not just, I don't know, move on. And finally now, the 3rd pillar is destination stewardship, and that's the lens of the resident. And this is becoming increasingly more important. So it's going to be programs or more programs that support the community and the natural world around us today and for future generations. I'll be the first to admit that this is where we need to do the most work in moving forward. And that's where our strategic plan is going to focus a lot of effort. We already have some programs in place working with the Golden CED on the launch pad, as well as the trying to remember the word, but oh yeah, temporary seasonal worker living wage program. That's it. We'll also look at other opportunities working with other organizations to expand those offerings. Without getting into the rest of everything, that leads me to the end of my quick presentation, which I can't switch the next slide of. Oh, wait, there we go. Now it's working. So I also included a letter. So I'm asking council to refer to the accompanying letter regarding Tourism Golden's pending application to continue the 3% MRDT and remain the DMO for the town of Golden and electoral area A, excluding Yoho National Park. In the letter, it requests support for the continuation of the 3% MRDT for 5 years, beginning July 1st, 2027, and to direct staff to prepare a letter confirming town support with Tourism Golden continuing as the designated recipient of the MRDT.
Thank you very much. Been a long time. Thank you very much. My apologies. Council, any questions or comments with regards to presentation? Councilor Guil?
You, Mayor. I have a question with regards to the 3%. Are you going to be applying it to other things such as, can you apply it to tourism, like adventure tourism, or like camping? Can it be applied to camping? I know that some municipalities are using it or charging for camping as well.
As far as I know, it's not legislated that campgrounds can collect it, if that's what you're asking. The BC DMOA does have a paper which outlines how we can modernize the MRDT, and that is one of the suggestions. Right now, we're not in a position, and I don't believe the town is in a position to enforce that.
I just wanted to know that because I remember speaking with your predecessor that said voluntarily campgrounds could pay it.
I was not aware of that, and I
Yeah.
can definitely look into it and find out.
I just think it's more money in the pot, that's all.
Yeah.
Opportunity. Okay, thank you. Councilor Manuel?
Just want to speak briefly. I think we still get some negative comment about tourism and that people feel, I think, unhappy about standing in a longer line at the Save-On. But I don't think a lot of people understand that we chose tourism because I believe it was our mill was having major troubles. We decided we needed to diversify, and we did that by a very strong referendum to sell the existing community's ski resort, and that there are probably some smaller businesses that might not make the winter if they didn't have the summer tourism season. So I think you have a message to sell as well.
So a comment?
Yeah, I would agree. And we do have an upcoming 2025 value of tourism study will be coming out. I did share that with council. We're waiting on finalizing a couple of videos just to help guide people through that. We also did conduct a resident sentiment survey earlier this year, and the results are on our website for everyone to see. And it was large in favor of people understanding tourism, seeing it as a value to the community. Yes, there's going to be some work to be done. It's not ever going to be perfect, but we are working towards showing the benefits to the community more, increasing the benefits to the community. And as you said, we see this as a way of diversifying Golden's economy.
Thank you.
Councilor Cooper?
Thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate the use of the word community, that we aren't just local resources, we're local people. I really like that you've separated the destination stewardship out, and I really look forward to what that will bring, because Golden is an amazing place, and I think the strategies are working, and it is about resources and the people. So I think that you've done a really good job with that, and I can't wait to see where that's at. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor, or comment, response?
I would just say the only comment I would have is everyone in the organization is a community member as well. There's no one that is part of Tourism Golden that comes in from somewhere else. And we don't have any plans on remote work for anybody outside of the community. You need to know what it's like to live in Golden before you can make the proper decisions.
My further comment, it shows that you're very much a part of the community, and it's great to see.
Thank you for that, Councillor Routley.
Thank you. And thank you, Andy, for the presentation. Really great to see the alignment with the updated OCP. I mean, it's obviously still in its draft phase, but barring any big change today, hopefully we're at third reading. I guess as part of that, pulling out the destination stewardship piece, really appreciating that that's, you know, going to be an area for more opportunity. Obviously within the OCP, we've identified the ongoing desire to identify projects or opportunities for using MRDT for affordable housing projects. Do you mind just kind of outlining the high level kind of mechanics, just so we, for council's benefit, of just kind of understanding how that would come into practice?
Yeah. So historically, MRDT can't be used for infrastructure. Several years ago, an amendment was made to that so that online, what used to be called OCP, online accommodation platforms, we could use that MRDT for affordable housing projects. With that, we went out to our stakeholders, asked what their approval, or if they felt we should be using that for accommodation. And given that accommodation is high on the list of issues in this community, there was support for it with the addition that it be to help workers in the tourism industry. So that would be affordable housing for tourism workers, and they would support that. We've had conversations with the Golden CED, and in order to have those funds be set aside for a project, we just need a viable project to come forward and be able to do that. So the conversation it's been ongoing. I know they're working on a project right now, which is, I see another story on it today, which is great to see. And we're happy to continue those conversations and be able to identify what a project would look like and what kind of funds would be needed of the available MRDT and move forward from there.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hambrick.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Yeah, thanks for your presentation and the involvement, the commitment to involve the community to a higher level. Just one thing that several years ago, there was a group of us that got together to try to put a tourism ambassador type program together, similar to what is in the Calgary airport with the white hats and red ties, when somebody looking for information. That sort of got started and then fizzled and ran out. Is that anything that Tourism Golden would be interested in rekindling, something, a program along that lines?
Yes, I remember that program because it started in late 2019. I think we got one year of implementing it before you weren't allowed to talk to people close up anymore. We pivoted from that model of educating select individuals to the Golden Guide model, which has seen about 700 graduates. The idea for that is to try and get more individuals who have the same understanding of the tourism industry and can interact with people. Now they won't be as visible on the streets, but the Golden Guide model is an online education course that implements different modules for different aspects of Golden, and that can be summer, winter activities. It can be our history, Indigenous past. We've included extra modules now, which are social services, backcountry awareness, wildlife awareness, so that individuals can go and take this program, get more educated about Golden and the surrounding area. And then when they interact with a visitor, they know where the information is. And if all they remember is where to direct them of where the proper information is, and then that works. We really push hard to get as many of the frontline workers taking the program as possible. So we work with the Golden Sky Ridge and Kicking Horse every season to have them educated on it, as well as put it out there in the community to just have regular community members take the program. And upon completion of the program, you actually get access to the Golden Pass, which provides discounts to local shops around Golden. And we are committed to continuing this program as well. If there's other programs out there for ambassadors, we can look into it again. I just wouldn't commit that we would do that if it overlaps the work that we're already doing.
Any follow-up, Councillor Hambrick?
No, that's fine, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, from my perspective, it's great to hear the words tread thoughtfully, stewardship, sharing community values and future generations in a document. That's extremely powerful. I think it's a great document, and thank you for the work that you've done it and your board has done in pulling that together. As Councillor Routley mentioned, the alignment with the OCP, the soon to be formal OCP. So thank you for all of that. And typical of delegations, council generally deals with the matter, the requests put forward at a subsequent meeting, unless it's the desire of council to do something to diverge from that practice. But please know that there are two very clear requests in your letter, and that council will be dealing with those at probably the next council meeting. I got the thumbs up from the CEO. It will be the next council meeting. Usually I avoid committing staff, but I got the thumbs up. So thank you very much for that, and thank you for the work.
Thank you.
No, it's great to see everybody here for your presentation, Andy. I'm sure there might be a few people here that are interested in the next presentation too. So I ask Mr. Petrovic to do the intros and get the next presentation going.
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Worship. So we're coming forward to you today with ultimately an update on one of Council's strategic priorities. This is an item that was identified in Council's strategic plan. And from a staff perspective, we wanted to ensure that a timely update was delivered before the end of the summer season. So that's why we're here in front of you today. A little bit of background, just as I've had multiple people asking me questions about the project itself. This project is funded by EOF funding. Of course, that funding requires a resolution from the CSRD Board of Directors and Town of Golden Council in order to move things forward. So just to squash any rumors about the funding mechanism for this project, it's not coming off of anyone's tax bill directly. We started work on this back in the fall of 2025. We posted an expression of interest back in December. We formed a council select committee that included representatives from CSRD staff, the area director, the mayor, Town of Golden staff, and we awarded a contract in April of 2026. And I believe about 5 days later, we had our first kickoff meeting with our proponent that has tackled the work. So the presentation that we're bringing forward today, the intent is a high-level presentation on the capital costs associated with our options, high-level operational costs. And the work that we're doing right now is kind of being the first step in terms of future work. We're not going to be diving into the tax impact that this project will have on individual taxpayers. That's work that we plan to bring forward in the future. And with that, I'd like to welcome Riley Batchelor and Ian McDonald from Karstaden Strokes McDonald Architects. They were our proponent that has been working on this project, and they have a detailed update on what we've been up to for the last 3.5 months.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Great, thank you. Sorry. Oh, That's me. I have the power. Okay. All right, and it works. Thank you. So welcome, everybody. Thank you, Jordan. It's nice to see you all. This is a project that we've been familiar with for a long time, having watched the earlier good work that preceded us, and kind of enjoyed seeing the design evolution come from there. I have a number of things that I'd like to talk about. And so just as a high level, we're going to go through some introductions and the project brief, the way it was presented to us. As part of our work, we also looked at the existing building and reviewed precedents. There were design options, of course, that were generated, and I'll walk you through 3 of those. There is some conversation about what it means to cover an outdoor pool, kind of open air cover or a pre-engineered sports box, as we have often called it in our office. So I'll speak to some of those issues. There is, as Jordan has alluded to, both capital and operational cost issues. And then I think there's some discussion about next steps and where we are in the process. This is a photograph from obviously your existing building and a provocative sketch of, maybe what the future holds. Oh, I'm not clicking. Nope. Can I get the next one? There we go. Architecture is a team sport. So Riley and I are 2 people, but we really represent dozens of people that have already worked on this project, including structural engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, our quantity surveyor that is helping us with the pricing, and an operational expert, Gabby Haas, who's helped us with some of that work. And then, of course, staff from the town of Golden have provided a considerable amount of input and guidance. So we're grateful to all of those teammates of ours. The project brief that was given to us was to explore a spectrum of options that could variously improve, replace, or expand the existing facility and its program options. We assess these on a kind of continuum of options, and there's many different ways to solve this problem. So I should be very clear that none of the options we're showing you, even in their apparent resolution, are a design proposal per se. They are a proof in principle that something could happen with these program elements, and the way that architects test that is by drawing plans and elevations and trying to understand what the potential ramifications would look like. We also looked at extending the season, and that might be incorporated through either an indoor facility or through a sports box, as I'll allude to. But I'll speak first to some of the other issues and then walk you through some of the design options that we've generated. So big question, what did we do? Well, we reviewed your work to date, including earlier draft reports. I should note as a point of pride that our office did some early work with the town in the early aughts, even before I joined the firm. So there's some old project folders that I was able to comb through from when I was a wee lad and not actually engaged in architecture. I still thought I was going to do something else. We toured your facility, looked at the old drawings. We also did the precedent review, as I mentioned, developed several design options, and then we looked at capital and operation and both capital and operational costing. And this will culminate in a report that is forthcoming. So this presentation, the documents we've shown you today, as well as any feedback we get in the interim, will be rolled into a final report that we will issue to Jordan and his team. So this is a diagram loosely of how design programs work from an architect's perspective. So we're at a very early stage in an aquatics options study, and the real question is where we are. So we're right where that red is. So we're at a council and CSRD presentation. We've done some information gathering, including a presentation to members of the public at the pool. There's still many opportunities for the public to provide input, both through engagement and through council. So we're really just at the start of any process that the town would like to undertake. And there's, I think, many ways to proceed. I'm sure everybody knows the facility, but it's kind of incumbent on me to remind everybody where it is. It's on the south shore of the river. It is a venerable facility. It does not meet the current building code, as is the case for many of BC's outdoor pools. It is a very important community asset, increasingly in towns like Carameuse and Oliver and Golden, where we're also working. The outdoor pool provides a significant cooling center. It is often the only aquatic facility. It is certainly a major civic hub. In this case, it is part of a campus of buildings. There's the Curling and Legion, as you know, and the arena and the school and a number of other kind of local buildings. Past work looked at these two zones, the parking lot area, the existing building and pool, which was part of a phase 2 parking lot, and then the kind of lower area where where a proposed new indoor pool was situated. And we've assumed those locations to kind of build on that good research that's already taken place there and the kind of preparatory work. So things like archaeological research, geotechnical research, to make sure that we understand the design constraints in those locations. What this means is there's kind of, or I think what we've taken from this is that there's a kind of implied civic plaza on the left-hand side of that bent barbell line that is at the end of the turn, the kind of chicane turn that provides views and access. So it does have a kind of situational prominence when you are traveling along that road, and the potential of a facility there is quite enticing. That edge is, of course, easily perforated by pedestrians and people from other areas on the campus, which is very interesting to us. So I think it sets up a lot of opportunities for any facility, indoor or outdoor, or some combination of the two that would find itself in that location. So I think it is a very smart spot to put a new facility of some sort. Throughout BC and in parts of Alberta where we've done work, these are not all our projects, but we're familiar with a number of outdoor pool facilities and strategies. So we looked at those primarily. I'm going to speak to 3, which are kind of surrounded in red here, but just to highlight a few. Prairie Winds Park in Calgary is the Western Canada's largest wading pool, as we understand it. You can see Carameuse Pool and Oliver Pool are similar vintage to yours. And similar configurations generally. 25-meter tank, although in the case of Carameuse, it's I think it's 25 yards, which is a nuisance for them, as they have described it. But they are entertaining similar kind of options. And then closer to home for us, the Centennial Outdoor Pool was a pool in Burnaby we worked on. And then I'll speak to Vanderhoof and Flin Flon and Bella Coola now. So Bella Coola is, and I'll go through these fairly quickly, but I think they're useful to frame this project. It is a fairly remote and modest population, very remote and modest compared to Golden, I would say. But they had a mandate to build a new pool, and its remoteness resulted in a limited number of trades that could actually work on the facility. And they had some real trouble trying to stick handle the delivery of this project. And what they ended up electing to do was buy a pool from Berndorf, way over in Europe, and ship it over on barges. And this turned out to be the more cost-effective solution compared to concrete for their little town, believe it or not. Now, it did not actually take this dotted line path. For the record, it went through the Panama Canal, as I understand. But what this allowed them to do was buy it in advance, and they built it in the winter, and then they shipped it to site and assembled it in less than a week, which is very interesting. It did commit them to a few things. It is not exactly the same as what we've drawn for Golden. It is a 4-meter tank, a 4-lane tank. It is all stainless steel, and it suits them just fine. There were also some mechanical equipment that came with this, and it was, I think, a reasonable solution for this location. This project was delivered under a CM at risk, so not a design bid build and not a design build. So I think those are also items that any future work on this project would want to review. This is an older pool. This is an indoor pool in Vanderhoof, a slightly larger community, I believe, relative to Golden. It predated COVID in its original design. It was put on hold for length of time while granting was sorted out, and they eventually built it. It is a 6-lane pool, and enjoyed the benefits of pre-COVID inflation. So it has a fairly sizable leisure pool for a community of this size, and a 6-lane lap pool and a reasonable hot tub. It does not have any other program elements associated with it. So there's no multi-purpose room or a fitness room or anything else. So it's an indoor comparison, I think, to what Golden's looking for. We were recently charged with delivering Vanderhoof, but for less, post-COVID. And in the community of Flin Flon, which, if you're not familiar with it, effectively straddles a provincial border. So it's on the very edge of Manitoba. And it is compared to Golden, it is actually a shrinking population. So it is considerably more challenged, but they were determined to make this happen. Similar to Bella Coola, it is a modest 4-lane lap pool and an extremely modest leisure component. So no lazy river, but enough for toddlers and a parent to kind of flop around, which made sense for them. And again, not a lot of other associated programming activities, an activity room for dry land training and things like that. This was delivered under a design build methodology. So that enabled Flin Flon to say, this is the budget and thou shalt not exceed it. But what that meant was they gave up control of a number of things. But it did yield a result that they were happy with. This is a cute little diagram we tried to do for them. And this is a photograph of it probably about 8 months ago when it was near complete. So we did this with our partner architects, Vern Reimer, who are based in Manitoba. We were the wet side specialists. So we did everything that had a pool membrane or a membrane under the floor was our responsibility, and they primarily did the building envelope. So the question at hand is, what is right for Golden? And I do want to stress that we're sensitive to the fact that we're interested in what's right for Golden specifically. That this is not Burnaby or Coquitlam or Vanderhoof or any of these other towns. And we're not experts in Golden, so we've really benefited from Jordan, his input. And I think however the town elects to proceed, I would encourage that team and yourselves to continue to provide good and thoughtful advice. So I'm going to go through this. This is probably the slide I linger on the longest because it is fairly dense. But there's three options that we reviewed in order to compare. One was a renovation of your existing facility. 2 was a new outdoor pool. And 3 was a new indoor pool. The scope's sort of broadly the same, although there are differences. In the renovation scope, we acknowledged that we would need to do considerable amount of renovation to bring it up to building code. I'd say as like a matter of fact, every time they update the building code, every single building in the province is automatically not compliant. So it just happens. But older buildings tend to lag behind more, and there are a number of things that need to happen. This would include energy upgrades, accessibility accommodations, in addition to all the softer requirements that your community might expect, having been to other communities and seen what kind of pools they have. So there is a kind of competitive marketplace expectation that citizens in any community might have. So this generally renovated the existing pool and repaired the existing pool deck, which is obviously wearing, and then reconfigured the existing change facility. That has a construction hard cost of let's call it $11 million, so 10.99. A soft costs are consultants, building permits, maybe staff costs, depending on how you count it, although that's not indicated in here, and anything that is not directly associated with the construction of the facility, for a total project cost of $13 million. There are significant code upgrades. This is under critical issues. It's remains seasonal use only under this renovation. There are compromised program spaces. Working within the existing building shell presents real limitations. The classic unknown unknowns, we don't really know what we're going to discover there until we open it up, is always a challenge. And then there's reduced control of schedule in our estimation. So potentially 2 summers might be interrupted as a result. This is the outcome of unknown unknowns. If you discover something, you have to deal with it. Sometimes it takes longer than you want. The second option is the outdoor pool. So this is new outdoor pools, a new changing village. So this proposes a gender neutral, but where everybody has their own dedicated high privacy compartment or cubicle. And then associated support spaces. So a room for dryland activity like lifeguard training or a birthday party, improved staff areas. And of course, the yellow in our little diagram is the mechanical room. It has a construction budget of 16 million. It has a soft cost of 2.7 and a total project cost of 18.8 million. It would be 100% code compliant. It remains seasonal only. And we think there will be improved staff operations and energy efficiency in this option. There would be both those things in the renovated option, but not to the same degree, which is why I've highlighted that. The new indoor pool, we are proposing a new indoor lap pool. It is 25 meters. It is 6 lanes. They are 2.3 meters wide. There's a changing village, slightly different configuration, but same strategy as the outdoor pool and associated support spaces. The construction cost is 21.99, or let's say $22 million. The soft costs are 3.8, and the total project cost is $25.8 million. It too is code compliant. It enjoys all year use, so that means training and employment is a little bit different for this option, and it has improved operations similarly to the seasonal, to the new outdoor pool. So that's the high level. I will return to these statistics a few times through the rest of the presentation when I delve a little bit deeper into each option. We did look at costing, as I said, so we have a QS on board. And you're going to point to me if I need to speed up, right? That's your job. Okay. All right. So I've just highlighted the two obvious, the numbers you care about the most. These are the same numbers that I reported previously. So the construction cost, the soft cost, and the total project cost. You can see in the diagram that I'll point to in a slightly larger version in a moment, what the organization is. But in this report, the elemental construction cost is laid out. This is just the summary sheet that I've shown in this slide. The facility is of an age. The photo on the top left is access to the pool deck. The photo in the middle top is access to the men's change room, or the Warriors, I guess. And the photo in the top right is a view from the deck looking back at the facility. There's, of course, the staff room, the washroom, and then the mechanical room, which probably most of the general public has never seen. All of those areas are important. None of them are of modern expectations, I think. The renovations here propose a reconfiguration of the changing area, and then the repair of the pool deck, and also the pool itself. And you can see that what we've done is we've largely maintained the separation of the two change facilities so that men and women, or team A and team B, or if there's a competition, like visitors at home and away are attending from one side or the other, if that's how the division is structured. But it's mostly cosmetic and finish upgrades. And I'm going to pass this over to Jordan.
This is where we're going to tag team back and forth a little bit as we go through this, as the large majority of the work done on your operational budgets kind of sat with my team and support from Gabby. And what we did is we looked at operational budgets for each of your 3 options as well. So this budget really is just taken pretty much straight out of your existing budget book, projected for 2027. Most of the numbers are based on that. So we have our revenue stream, basically any kind of renovation we do to the existing facility, we expect we'd be within the same ballpark in terms of operational costs. One of the things with all of these numbers that we're bringing forward for you is that we have put a reserve contribution into this. We went off about a 10% estimate at this point, and we intend to refine this and work through this once we get direction on our options. However, when we start looking at comparatives with other communities, it's very, very difficult for us to get that apples to apples when it comes to operational budgets and how they're presented from communities. A lot of communities will put their reserve funding into one giant facilities tank as opposed to an individual facility. So we've identified it in this budget. We also, in our work with, we based all of our estimates for these also on that 25% contribution. That's our existing goal that council has given our department in terms of our revenues, achieving roughly 25% of our operational budget, keeping in mind this is skewed because we've tacked reserve contributions onto these budgets as well. We did also with, sorry, we'll go to the next slide. We also did a little bit of benchmarking with other communities. We kind of feel that places like Armstrong, Oliver, have facilities that are kind of comparable from an operational budget perspective. And again, when we start benchmarking, this is tricky because we're not getting into the depths of programming, swimming lessons, aquafit, all of that other stuff in there, but there is some numbers for council to look at and contemplate as we go through this. So,
Okay, back
yeah.
to me. Option 2, so this is the new outdoor pool. This is a reminder just of what the budget items were. So this is $16 million for the construction cost, 2.7 for the soft cost, and a total project cost of a little less than $19 million. It is a more rational, as in the plan is a little bit more collected. So you can see the pink is the change area. You would enter in the in the center middle of the top of that program bar. You would immediately face a reception desk and have views out and through the pool deck behind them, through the blue area, which is a kind of staff zone. That's the control point. You are directed then to your right and into the change area. And on the top part of that bar, so again, to your right, there would be washrooms in this version. So there's a modern adult change table room with, as required by the building code. So you have the full adult change accoutrements, washroom and shower, as well as toilet compartments and the like. And on the other side, you have changing options that face directly out onto the pool deck. They are aligned with the leisure tank, which is intended to corral the kids so that the kids aren't like streaming into the deep end of the pool. They're inclined to run to the first body of water they see, so they run to the leisure pool, which is better, more convenient, and safer. I think it's also better in our experience from a lifeguarding point of view, because it means that lifeguards standing on the pool deck have clear and easy views into the changing village. So you are able to survey or at least hear what's going on in the change rooms if you're one person on the deck and you have a better sense of what's happening in your facility that you're responsible for. And in this case, there's also an outdoor hot tub located at the far end. We are showing an accessible ramp in this option as well as the next. I mean, that's for town's consideration. I think in most municipalities that are of a suitable size, this is a good solution. I think it is a worthwhile strategy in this case, but it also, given the amount of use it may or may not enjoy, there are other equipment ways to provide access for people who have challenge accessing the water. So we are showing it, but again, I flag this as a reminder that we are not so far down the design path here that anybody's actually made these choices. These are just like illustrative as potential options. This is a rendering of what that facility might look like from just the other side of the hot tub. So I mean, obviously Golden benefits from this like incredible natural environment that where I'm from in Vancouver, we have it, but it's much further away. Whereas I think here you kind of sit in it and it's much more nestled. So I like the idea of this kind of relationship to the natural world, which I think matches nicely with your slide deck and that kind of stewardship of the environment. Obviously really important. Jordan?
Thank you. Over on the operational budget side, we took what we're already doing with our existing outdoor pool and kind of shifted it over to the potential of a new facility. Actual slight reductions we would anticipate in terms of some of our salary and wages with some reconfiguration through design. There'd be some more efficiencies in terms of how we could staff and clerk the front desk of the facility. Potentially some savings in terms of the cost of running, pumps, filters, and all that. That would be fleshed out in more of a detailed design process. But yeah, from a budget perspective, pretty on par with what we'd be operating right now. That's based on those assumptions. It would be similar level of service in terms of what we're delivering to the public and a similar operational season as well. We did look at Enderby is a project that we actually, ironically, my team had a chance to tour this facility just before they did their big fill test back in April and checked out that brand new facility. So we're watching their operational budgets. Again, operational budgets, the unpacking, programming, operational seasons, hours of a day that a facility is open, and then as well those reserve contributions makes it quite tricky for us to give council that perfect apples to apples that you'd like to see here. However, we do have a Rolodex of a whole bunch of facilities that we could bring forward and bring more data forward in future steps of this project.
Okay, I'm going to take a brief pause from the design explorations and speak a little bit to the potential for open air covers, which I think has been the subject of some interest. So just as a reminder, there were two I guess, axes along which that we were kind of trying to understand this project. One was to enhance and expand, or upgrade and expand, I guess. And two was to extend the season. The design options generally are renovation to the left, new to the middle, and then some sort of enclosed facility on the right-hand side. But right now I'm going to talk about these two, which is an enclosed sports box, for which we've done several. The two examples on the left are their design options we designed to the end of design development for, and then subsequently abandoned. They were directed to not work on anymore because the client decided that that's not the direction they wanted to take. Ultimately, they viewed the enclosure of an outdoor pool as not suitable for them. I believe this was New West or Burnaby. It was actually my business partner who worked on it. And on the right-hand side is our more typical deployment of an outdoor sports box for a dry land activity. So we've looked at these for soccer, basketball, lacrosse, and ball hockey type of sports uses, where they do seem to enjoy a fair bit of use and do seem really practical. But I did want to highlight a few things about them. We're not convinced internally in our office that they're suitable for outdoor pools, although we're happy to take any direction to review them. And I won't go through all of the bullet points here, but generally open air sports boxes, they're common and useful for supporting dryland recreation and shoulder seasons and temperate climates for, soccer and lacrosse and basketball. No, that's not actually right. So it's actually football, as I understand it, based on FIFA, and ball hockey. Those are typical. So there are performance considerations when applied to a pool. One is that the shade is permanent and it's challenging to optimize. So it's always there. So it's constantly shading a portion of the pool so that impacts the water temperature. Uneven shadowing, I understand, is a challenge for lifeguarding. And the shoulder use season, in our experiences, in our estimation, is not meaningfully extended. That you might have a little bit at the beginning, but in September, when September rolls around, people tend to adopt a much more fall attitude towards their activities naturally. Wildfire smoke remains an issue in an open air sports box, and it remains, for all intents and purposes, a seasonal use only unless you're committed to heating it. And there are examples in the township of Langley. They have an all-season outdoor lap pool, but it is a more temperate climate there. There are administrative considerations. So there are limited suppliers for sports boxes, a little bit like the stainless steel pool option I showed earlier. Bella Coola had to commit to one supplier for that. There are a couple, but they made their bed with a particular supplier. So it's often challenging to get competitive tendering. Foundation's not included. So a sports box will be sold on the basis of everything from the ground up, but there's still concrete work, civil work, and all these other things that are price tag attachments. Permits are still required. They are not a way to sidestep a building permit and avoid the use of engineers. So those requirements are still in play. And typically they're designed not to be upgraded. So they are fabricated as the minimum structural solution for their intended purpose. So upgrades are potential upgrades are either built in at the time of original construction at a cost, or they are modifications later at a more significant cost. So those costs, and then plus any enclosed envelope. So they're anything is possible with headroom and money, as my structural instructor used to say, but enclosing does come at a cost. And they're still a capital and operational expense. Any exposed structural steel remains something you have to maintain. So those are considerations. And I would say that adjacent to an aquatic environment is typically a challenging environment to maintain. You don't escape that by building an indoor pool, but you are more in control of your air if the building is all the way enclosed from the beginning. So on to option 3. This is the new indoor pool. Just as a reminder, the construction cost for this was 16 million, the soft cost 2.7, and the total project cost 18.8. The design for this is similar to, in terms of program, similar to the outdoor pool, and includes a changing village. So you come in the top left and come through a door that provides access to the changing area. So that's the moment where you move from kind of regular air to the aquatic side air, because we need to control for that. So everything on that side of the door is a part of the wet environment. And it's a similar strategy of, in this case, high privacy changing compartments. And then you have views out to the pool deck. We are in this case showing a 25-meter lap pool with a ramp and then a hot tub. It, as I mentioned before, would be code compliant because it would be built to the building code of the day. It would enjoy all year use. There's training and employment opportunities. And we think staff operations and energy efficiency advantages. A potential rendering of this option I think is reasonable. So this is looking from the pool deck out, and nice views to the outside. So we still, and I think any architect worth their salt would still work hard to maintain that connection to the natural environment through windows, but also be very controlled about it. You will note that the ceiling here is tall, but not outrageous. We think that is a cost control measure. And also to be in tight control of the windows was one of the choices we made during this kind of feasibility study design to keep the costs down. This conceivable rendering from the outside. So that's the entry on the left and that's the pool on the right. We think something like a metal cladding would be a cost-effective solution here. We've done similar cladding strategies in Mackenzie. They have advantages for durability and maintenance. As long as people aren't parking directly next to them, they tend not to get dented too much by cars. And we think that the material is sort of practical and there's lots of different tendering options for it. Jordan?
Thank you. Over on the operational side, we did a lot of work on operational budgets as part of the past CSRD project. So we probably put a solid 50 hours of staff time into doing comparatives, looking at budgets, and we crafted numbers kind of based on a 2026 operating. So we reviewed those numbers, added some inflationary costs to it, and we're actually presenting 2 different operational budgets. That being that if the direction and the approvals are in place to go with the year-round facility, The change in the level of service for the community doesn't necessarily mean that we have to come out of the gate being open from 5 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. We have a lot of flexibility with budget direction on this. And there are times where we could potentially be open for 4 days a week, 8 hours at a time and such. So we gave you 2 ranges. And as well, reserve contributions are added in there as well. But keeping in mind that if we move into a detailed design process, the programming, the expansion that we can do is there's all sorts of different variations that we can look at on there. So so these are 2 good starting points for you. If we go to the next slides, we definitely did a little bit of benchmarking with communities like Cranbrook, Revelstoke. I'm in regular communication with the director of rec services in Revelstoke on budgets. It's a great community for us compared to. As well, we also looked at, next slide, please, Fernie, Merritt. And again, we have a list of about another 15 communities we could easily get some cost to benchmark with. All this research, we had a very hard time finding specific details on reserve contributions and also contributions in terms of management time, HR time, and such. So the budgets we've presented for the Golden facility take all of that into account. And that's why when you actually review this presentation, you might see some bigger discrepancies in terms of the dollars that are presented. Well, back over to you guys.
Yeah, so we're at the very tail end. Thank you for your patience. I know this is a lot to digest on the fly. So just as a recap, we've looked at 3 design options. They track costs in the way that you might expect, from least expensive to most expensive, depending on the scale of operations. They have programming advantages, also, I think, increasingly from left to right. There's merit in all of them, I think, depending on how the town sets its priorities. And I should say again, I think from our perspective, the goal is to respond to the design brief or the challenge with a reasonable aquatic option for the town of Golden that's suitable for you. And it was very clear from the beginning of this project that the goal was to deliver something that was within your funding envelope, I think, was the target. So we're mindful of that. We think, in particular with the pool, the indoor pool, we're very close. Appreciate that it's probably a little bit in excess of the previous granting, but I think it's within spitting distance. It would be our estimation. So again, I just thought I might highlight this slide again to remind people where we are. We will produce a report at the end of the teal bar, and then there's, depending on the direction from council to staff and how you elect to proceed, there's lots of opportunity to hone and craft any facility that you would like to develop and pursue. And so with that, I'll thank you very much, and happy to take any questions you like.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Council, any questions of the presenters or staff? Councilor Guil?
Thank you for the presentations. I do have a question. When you're looking at the refurbishment of the old pool,
Yep.
you talk about it being closed for a couple of seasons to get that done. Now, you mentioned about the pool that had a stainless steel tank that it was shipped over.
Mhm.
Would you be replacing the tank on that, in that refurbishment?
So I would put that in the category of technical considerations to choose. It might be a choice to be made later. The costing that was done for this report it assumes a repair to the existing concrete tank, not replacement with a stainless steel tank.
Okay.
The stainless steel tank is not entirely its own structure. So of course, like, it needs to be buttressed from the sides, and also it needs to sit on something that can support its weight. So there is some structural work that needs to happen. I'd want to talk to a structural engineer to understand how much you could rely on the existing tank. I think for a hot tub, they have successfully sleeved a new stainless steel tank into an old one. That was like some northern BC town. But in a hot tub, you're less concerned with dimensions. So, you know, if it's 6 inches inboard, it's not a big deal. But if you are suddenly changing your outdoor pool to 6 inches shorter and narrower, that's a different choice. And go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of, I was
Oh.
just thinking instead of like repairing the other one would be to replace it with a stainless steel tank.
A viable option. And there are a handful of actors in the industry that can provide that sort of solution. Our preference is the stainless steel right now because it does seem the most robust. But there's many, there's a few options.
Thank you, Councilor Manuel.
I have more than one question, but I'm sure other people have questions too. So I'll start off with, I'm wondering, well, how much of this depends on usage in terms of like operating costs, et cetera. But here in Golden, we've got 4,000 people approximately in the town, fairly compact. Then we've got another approximately 4,000 people spread all over Helen gone. I mean, a long way away. So comparing it to another community, it seems like, there's challenges there because it's going to be hard to estimate how many people are going to be coming in from the distance in the winter or something like that, as compared to people who have to drive a couple blocks in another town. How do you do that?
I think your question is geared towards the indoor pool and justifying that one. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah. I think we have, I think we would rely on Gabby Haas to help us with some of that typical information. I think the primary driver would be based on what your catchment area is now for the indoor pool. And in the first instance, tracking what would be a typical adjustment for population usage. I think I would imagine that in the winter months, a little bit like Whistler, actually, they're not outdoor pool. They have an indoor pool at the Meadow Park Sports Center. Many skiers go there for après ski after the fact. And so I suspect that the winter might enjoy a considerable amount of use. But I'd want to go back and check the numbers. I'm not sure if you've got any information, Jordan.
Jordan?
Yeah, it's also reviewing this. This is where we start leaning into the work that we did with our past study as well, where there was pretty extensive public consultation on that in terms of looking at our position here in Golden to another year-round facility. We did a bunch of benchmarking work on how close Golden is to another community, where in places like Metro Vancouver, you can drive from one municipality to the next in under a half an hour to access facilities of this nature. So there's been a lot of homework done on that side of things, and it is the desire from the community through those studies was definitely leaning towards a year-round facility. And then we get into that aspect of programming and how we operate and run the facility. So really at the end of the day, with a facility like this, there's a lot of decisions that could almost be made on the fly in terms of how we budget and how we run a year-round building. After a year, if we know that a month like February is nothing, then maybe we schedule our annual maintenance at that time, just as an example. So lots of different ups and downs. And again, that's why we're presenting kind of two different operational budgets as draft, because if we get into a detailed design process in terms of that detailed design, we would also want to do a lot more public consultation to develop a programming schedule that works for our community. So hopefully that answers that one a bit.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Council Cooper.
Hi, thank you. I really appreciate that you've given us options. That makes a big difference for us trying to figure out what works for our community. My questions were around, we have a 6-lane pool now. Are all 3 of these options 6-lane? It didn't indicate what each was. And also the middle option of 2, is there areas for, I guess 2 and 3, but mainly 2, for future renovations, such as putting an extra level on, or is there ideas of it can be expanded or adjusted in the future, or is that it solid forever kind of thing? Will it meet our needs 20 years from now?
Good questions. I detect 3 in there that I can respond to. The first is in terms of the options. Our view is typically that the next step is always some sort of blending of the options. Like it's never a pick right and you're committed forever. We would anticipate that there will be some 70-30 blend of the programming that we see here moving forward. So just that's our view of options generally. The second is we do show 6 lanes in options 2 and 3, and then in options 1 it's your existing tank but repaired. So I believe that's 6 lanes presently. And so that answers that one. In terms of expanding without adding a level, you can always sort of do if we site it correctly and leave you enough room to the side to build something new. I would, but none of the buildings presently assume a second floor. It's something we could look at in design development for sure. I think we would want to be cautious about that. One of the challenges with second levels is that now you're spending money on 2 staircases, likely an elevator, and those are fine, but they tend to chew up a lot of space and money. So if you don't have to spend those, my preference would be to expand laterally, which I think is cheaper and easier to do for yourself. Is that a reasonable response?
But so is there room laterally for expansion, like on the block afterwards, like for future?
Yes, for modest expansions, but we would need a specific program to know. Like if you're asking can I add an ice rink? Probably not. Can I add a couple multi-purpose rooms? Sure.
That's more what I was thinking. In the future, if we did want more multi-purpose space, we would be able to build.
And we haven't perfectly
Potentially.
cited them. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we would certainly look at that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Supplemental, Mr.
Yes, please. One additional thing with the tank is that obviously we had some pre-conversations with the swim club regarding their programming and impacts, and swim club made it very clear that 6 lanes, 25 meters is their desired tank size for to ensure that they can retain their programming, continue to host competitions. We also decided to move forward with giving you a 6-lane option in all 3 options, so that that's one of those big pieces of consistency that can be brought forward in all 3 design options. As the project moves along, that can obviously be explored, but to retain our biggest user group of the facility, we felt it was best to move forward with 6-lane pricing.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councilor Utley, we'll go round table 1 first and then second.
Thank you. I'll keep it as just a brief comment of thanks and really congratulating the very quick turnaround, even just for the high level. I think this is quite substantial, and looking forward to the ongoing discussions both at this table and in the public. Nothing new for questions. So yeah, just a thanks to yourselves and to staff for the work so far.
Thank you for that. Councilor Hambrick, anything at this point in time?
Oh, no, I'm fine, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Guil.
Thank you. If I could have Director Petrovic talk about why we have to have a consultant come in and do a report like this. Well, the importance of it, because maybe there's a lot of people in the community that don't understand why are we doing another report, another engineering report. And I think it's important that that information gets out. So if you wouldn't mind explaining that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Guil and Mr. Petrovic.
Through your worship, absolutely. That's a very loaded question. Really the whole focus of this study is really based on that council direction and past conversations that we wanted to ensure we were doing work to sustain aquatic services in our community. When the previous project kind of got to its point where it wasn't successful with the capital granting and things got put aside, council did pivot at the time and made a statement and provided direction to staff going, we need to do something because we know that our facility is aging. We know that as in any other asset, it has a lifespan to it, and we're getting close. We did bring council an actual condition assessment, and that was just based on our existing facility. That condition assessment was presented to council, I want to say 2024. And then the direction came that said, we've looked at our existing facility. We know it's going to be roughly $10 million to fix it. And with that price tag, the direction was given to staff to go, okay, now let's look at options. The original study that the CSRD was kind of leading and I was on the sidelines with for the entire process was 100% focused on an indoor-based facility. And so we spent very minimal time kind of almost backpedaling and looking at what we could do with our existing pool or building a new outdoor pool. So that is really what kind of got the wheels rolling with this project and ultimately resulted in the council direction to look at a study that brings forward 3 different options and 3 different directions that we could potentially go with this project.
Thank you for that.
Does that work in terms of response for you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd probably, it might have something to do with if we were pursuing granting, we would have to go this route as well. We couldn't rely based on the other study completely because we needed more.
So the question is,
needed
what
more
role did
information.
granting?
I just wanted to make sure that
Mhm.
people that are in the gallery and that are maybe watching this understand the need for this
Yeah.
other study.
Really, in short, this really is kind of a detailed asset management plan for your existing facility. And with any asset management plan, we do want to explore the options of, do we fix what we have? Do we build new? And where do those costs land? And also the impact to the community. The biggest one from a staff perspective is when we look at renovating our existing outdoor pool, we could be down for 2 full seasons. And the impact that would have on the community and the pushback would be huge. And, it'd be hard for me to go grocery shopping. So there's that component that we have to look at, potentially unpack a bit further as we bring back more information on this. But to have those comparatives of other options is really the focus that we want to bring forward with this study, where past work a lot of times was looking more solely at one option.
Thank you. Councilor Manuel, you had supplemental questions?
No, I had another question and a brief comment. I think what you need to do is tell people, among other things, that before we vote on it, everyone's going to know the impact on taxes, because that's something that's going to be important to a lot of people. But as you knew, and then the actual question is, we're talking largely, I think, about the indoor pool. Would it be relatively energy efficient these days?
The indoor pool?
Yes.
The target is building to meet the standards of the building code. So energy efficient.
Yeah.
But we're not targeting something like passive house or another standard. Those typically come at a premium, usually a capital premium.
Mm-hmm.
And those costs can be recouped over time, but it comes over time through operational, I guess, the accruement of operational advantages.
But it meets current standards.
Strictly speaking, there is no way to do a contemporary building that does not meet the building code. So it would be energy efficient, certainly relative to the new building, and possibly, likely relative to most buildings in the town, because it would be built, 5 years from now or something.
Okay, thank you.
Is that satisfactory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else from council, a couple questions with regards to the numbers. My understanding, these are Class D
Correct.
estimates. Can you explain what a Class D estimate and?
Oh, sure. So a Class D estimate, no, they're actually Class C, pardon me. They're a Class C, so they're based on an elemental area takeoff. We produced drawings, issued them to the quantity surveyor, who operates a little bit like a contractor. They have benchmarked costs for various scopes. This would be metal cladding, concrete, reinforcing, things like that. They also, for specialty equipment, reach out to trades and manufacturers and contractors to benchmark their pricing. They receive that pricing and then compare it against historical projects that have been recently tendered of similar sizes, because a pool or any project of a certain size has a certain economy of scale. So if you're building a hospital, and I appreciate most people know this, but for the people who don't, if you're obviously building a giant hospital, you can buy drywall at a lower unit rate than if you're just like buying drywall for a house. So they compare it to recent projects of a similar project type and scale. And then to answer, I think the mayor's direct question, a Class C estimate is usually plus or minus 20 to 40%, 18 times out of 20 is I think what the QS identified in their report. So it is considered to a kind of not quite an order of magnitude estimate, but it is very high level. Included in this estimate are contingencies, both design and construction contingencies. So when people see those words, they should understand that the design contingency is a line item for all the things that the engineers and the architect and the owner have not thought of yet, but need a bit of an allowance to think of through the design process. So over the course of the design process, that design contingency becomes lower and lower as we identify more and more things that we know that we need to include. So those might be astragals on outdoor, outside face exterior doors to prevent break-in that aren't identified at this scale of at this level of detail, but we know that we'll need to hit. The other contingency is obviously a construction contingency. This is because there are coordination items in the drawings that need to be addressed. There might be a site condition that needs to be addressed. The construction contingency for options 2 and 3 is 10%. And then for option 1, because it's an existing building, the construction contingency is higher. And that is intended to reflect the limited ability to know what the condition of the existing building is. It is possible to open up a wall and discover in a wood frame building, for instance, that the wall is rotting. So I was recently working on a daycare, and when the contractor removed the inside drywall, they discovered that not a single stud went to the sill plate of the wall. So of course, there's a whole bunch of work that has to happen that was not captured in our drawings because it's simply not possible to discover until you have begun your demolition work.
Thank you for that. And that's, yeah, what I was looking for, the plus or minus 20 to 40%. And the other contingencies are included in that 20 to 40%. Is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
The other question I guess through Mr. Petrovic is with regards to debt servicing. Can you go back to that slide, the numbers game? Was debt servicing included in there?
No, not in these operational budgets. We didn't get into the debt servicing, and you actually segue perfectly into a final slide that I did want to bring up that would allow us for council to provide a bit of direction on how we bring these numbers forward. In that all the work that was done the past referendum approved an indoor-based facility to be based off of the same taxation model as the arena in terms of that split of taxation. However, to date, we've received no formal direction from council that all 3 of these options should be based off of the same model. So staff is recommending that moving this project forward and doing those calculations on taxation impact for Area A residents and Golden, that we're working on the assumption that this project would be underneath the same funding model as the arena. And a resolution to that effect would allow us to, as staff, to start bringing forward those numbers, looking at the debt servicing, looking at paybacks, but actually bringing back some accuracy so that if you leave an Area A and you have a $500,000 piece of property and home, that we can provide some information on that impact. And then also likewise for the town of Golden. But without that information, we obviously staff didn't want to stick our necks out there and make those calculations, potentially with council saying we didn't want to go down this road. So,
Jordan, do you want me to?
yeah, we can bring up that last slide. So we did kind of pre-craft a resolution that council may consider, and we're happy to bring back another staff report with this. But this is one of those big parts of the puzzle that we do require some direction on in order to bring forward the numbers that I knew council would be asking for today.
Thank you for that. And I guess I'll just go, thank you very much for the presentation. So for clarity, you've provided construction costs and operational costs, construction cost to a Class C level, operational costs to the best information possible, given the homework that has been done. I think there's been great work that has been done.
All your operational costs, it's safe to say that they're within that same Class C range at this point.
Thank you for that. Supplemental run.
I just wanted to offer a clarification. We did provide construction cost and an estimate for soft costs for a total project cost.
Okay. Thank you. And then now you're looking for some direction moving forward.
Ultimately, the only item we really need to focus on is just even just a nod that that funding model is kind of the desired one to continue on with for this study. We've hit council with a lot of information today, and we have a lot of follow-up that will be forthcoming. So the following two are items that we would intend to bring back to council for future conversation, but spoiler alert, I guess. Is what-
Okay, and can someone from staff remind me there was previous resolution of council with regards to direction for a new aquatic facilities that it relied on the participation of the rural electoral area?
Yeah, absolutely. We've already been going down this path with the past resolutions, I think is the easiest way to sum it up. However, we haven't had that specific conversation that let's use this existing funding bylaw to calculate the impact for said facility options.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Councilor Guil,
Yeah, I
query?
have a question. Are you talking about that this building would be a CSRD building and that we would do the same funding model as the arena?
In terms of bringing forward numbers
Mhm.
for consideration, that is something that staff would like to table for basically for consideration. So in order to us to calculate out the various different numbers and impact, we do need direction on what that split would be. And again, this is a conversation that can happen at a later point in time, but it's something that in order to move forward this data, we do need direction.
Probably some value to have an initial conversation at this point in time. Councilor Routley?
Thank you. I guess just following up on Councilor Guio's question, the one half of that being just the ownership of the asset at the end. What I'm hearing is this point, it would be a town-owned asset, but with this a similar financing split as the arena. Where, because what I heard from Councilor Guio was the question being like, if it's entirely like the arena, CSRD owns that asset, and then it's the 50-48 split or whatever it is. So I guess just to follow up on the ownership question, town asset or CSRD, or that could also be on the table
That's
for discussion.
definitely a future conversation. But in order for us to bring forward estimates, knowing that we want that there's a desire from council in the regional district to present numbers that are based on that existing model, that's enough for us to at least provide consistent numbers for your three options and any variation of those options.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for that clarification. Supplemental clarification?
Yeah, I just find it difficult to make that decision today with regards to the share without knowing who's owning the asset, because there's going to be additional costs to that asset.
And we can
Fair
gladly
comment.
make that a future report.
Thank you. So specifically, you're not looking for anything from us today as far as that direction, but and you use the language to get a nod. So I'll be so bold to say from my perspective, ownership aside, I think the funding model needs to reflect the existing Golden Recreation Facility funding model that we have in place, which is a assessment-based formula, which is approximately 45-55, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it might even be
47-50.
It might even be a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that would be the direction I'd be nodding, is that we continue with pursuing this on the basis of that type of a funding model, regardless of ownership.
And that gives me more than enough to be able to bring back forward a detailed report for you at a later date.
And I'll look around the room to others. Councilor Routley, had your hand up?
I just see our CAO who probably I might steal the words from his mouth. It would be very nice to have this in the form of a motion, which language is prominently displayed in the first bullet point on the slide deck.
So are you moving that, Councilor Routley?
I would be happy to move that. Thank you.
I'm looking for a seconder. Councilor Will, seconding that. Any further discussion on that? This way you had one nod, maybe we can get 6 nods. So if there's no further discussion, I'll ask a question. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the report. And my assumption is that Ian's going to do all the work tonight because you did all the work today. Maybe not.
Tonight, of course, just for council and the gallery's information, tonight's efforts are going to be focused over at the Civic Center, as we do have, we do intend to provide a very similar version of this presentation minus the resolution stuff we just discussed, to the general public. The doors open at 5:30. We're going to be planning to do our presentation at 6.
Thank you for that, and thank you for being here, gentlemen. Appreciate it. We'll provide an opportunity if there are some folks who want to exit. Oh, come on, Karen, you can stick around for more fun. I would wait till the end of the agenda if you don't mind. And there's also the opportunity relative to the public meeting that Jordan just spoke about.
For gallery's perspective, we will be floating around the room tonight over at the Civic Center answering questions, and we also are going to be submitting questions and flowing. So.
Okay, and can do so at the end of the meeting. So with that, council, we'll move on. The agenda, we have item 7A, external correspondence, and I'm looking for motion that the items of external correspondence be received. Moved by Councilor Guillo, second by Councilor Routley. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And the first one is a communication from Golden Cycling Club requesting support in advancing the Reflection Lake Trailhead Gazebo project by prioritizing the reestablishment of the town's license of occupation for the Reflection Lake recreation area. They do note that they've been working with staff on the project to construct the timber frame gazebo there. There was also some mention of a second side resolution identifying Reflection Lake as a preferred location for the project and authorizing the Keith King Mountain Skills Park as an alternate location should the provincial approval for Reflection Lake extend beyond the timelines required by the funding partners. So that's what's being asked of us on that one. And maybe I'll go to the second one and the second one is a request or an opportunity to have a meeting with MLA McInnes. So with that, and the dates would be confirmed later down the road. So with that, is there any comments, direction, or motions from council with regards to the action items? Councilor Routley?
Thank you. I guess just first a question. This will be relative to the Reflection Lake Gazebo project. Just a question to staff around confirming, that the license of occupation will have to be renewed, and just the status of that.
Mr. Pedrick?
Pass. We've been working back and forth with the cycling club on this one for quite some time, and this renewal process kind of turned into a bit of a multi-departmental challenge. However, I'll let the director of operations jump in if I put my foot in my mouth, but we are working on submitting an application for a license of occupation renewal, along with an application for the gravel pit site over at Reflection Lake. So we're looking at combining those two processes to get that renewal process rolling. With that, we anticipate it'll take some time for that renewal to come in, and I'll let some other staff jump in with more details.
Mr. Cochran, anything to add?
Thank you. Probably the best thing I could offer at this point is I'm intending to bring a staff report to council in the month of September regarding a request for a resolution to make application to the province for crown tenure of the area.
Thank you for that. And I guess my quick question that came to mind from you is it normal that these license of occupations would lapse without them being renewed? Did we miss something here, or is this just kind of the normal process? And whoever wants to field that one can go ahead. Peter's looking at Paul.
I'll jump in here. Alicia asked me to look at the file with her, and it appeared that oddly, we had a lease over the entire area, not just where the bird viewing platform is, but our parking area where there's a pit toilet as well. They're on two different parcels. And we still have the bird watching area, but not the parking lot to get to the bird watching area. So there's some basically the province said we have to reapply. So we'll combine the two files for efficiency, and the director of public works and his team has taken on some of the legwork, so which is great, and more to come.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the information, the explanation. Councilor Rutley.
Yeah, and this is, sorry, one more thing, Mayor, to your question. This dates back to 2011 or 12, I believe. So it was a significant time ago.
Thank you for that. Councilor Rutley.
Thank you. I guess let's follow up then. So I'm hearing that staff are already proceeding with the necessary tenure process with the province, and so really then the second piece within the request for Golden Second Club is more around the letter of support around the project siting in general. And so with that, I'd be happy to move forward that the council oh, look at that. Council provide direction to staff, or sorry, that council supports identifying Reflection Lake as a preferred location for the project. And with the Bike Skills Park identified as that alternate as outlined within the letter.
Thank you for having that prepared in advance. Poof. Thank you, staff. Looking for a seconder. Councilor Manuel seconding that. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And to the second item with MLA McInnes, is there any subject matters or desire by council to actually meet directly with MLA McInnes at UBCM? Councilor Manuel?
I have a subject matter in a second, but I think it's a very positive thing to do to work with our local MLA. Many of the issues that are trouble us, our other communities in his riding have the same issue. And I think if we work together, we're probably more likely to get good results. I'm thinking though, in terms of fire protection, because we have fire smarting, but I don't think we do a lot in terms of our community. And I think maybe we can do more with our MLA and maybe approaching the province to see if we can do things like maybe substituting or changing deciduous for coniferous trees in some instances. So yeah, I think it's worth trying, and it's worth taking on it. Although he may have his own idea for subject.
So 2 points. First point, historically, when we've gone to UBCM and met with other agencies, other parts of the provincial government, the MLA in many instances has attended those meetings with us as that regional representation, as has the electoral area director and a number of them. Specific to meeting with the MLA to talk about fire initiatives, I guess, and the concept of trees. Is there a specific program that you are aware of that you would like us to bring forward to the minister?
Afraid I don't have that. I'm just hoping that we can have a discussion about what we might be able to do with their assistance, because I think, with fires aren't going away. And I think it's probably, if we can develop things that limit the fire danger to our communities, we're going to save a hell of a lot of money at the provincial level.
Okay, so I'm just still trying to dig a little bit deeper as far as the request is or the idea is to request a meeting with the MLA to do an exploration on what the opportunities are for.
With the MLA and with someone from the province, hopefully, but that's what I have.
Yeah, so this is a request specifically to meet with the MLA. Okay, with that, Councilor Rutley.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, notwithstanding obviously the focus and the value within the fire smarting file, I think communities across the province, especially after this wildfire season, which is still very active, are recognizing that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I think that we're best fit if we're using this opportunity to meet with Emily McInnes to brief him on the topics that we're going to the ministers specifically about. And so I guess before going into that, I guess a question to staff, we're expecting to hear at some point here pretty soon whether we've not received certain meetings to ministers. And so no news is good news so far. Maybe in the next week we'll know for sure. And so I guess subject to that process, then subject to hearing any denials from ministers relative to the submissions that we've made, perhaps we invite to brief the MLA just generally on those topics anyways, because there's still 2 years left in Victoria, and then we can buddy up and push forward the advocacy initiatives that we
And that
bring.
is sounding more like a timing issue as far as receiving some responses, being able to brief on those specific stuff matters. So at this point in time, I'm getting the sense that there's a reluctancy to book a meeting just for the sake of having a meeting. Let's see what comes back from the province, and then we can provide that opportunity to brief the MLA if we should so desire. Mr.
Yeah, I'm just double checking the meeting request book directly from UBCM. They simply say mid-August for regrets. So we are mid-August. I haven't received any regrets yet from them, so fingers crossed.
Thank you for that supplemental information. Okay, with that, we'll put this in kind of off to the side for a little bit right now and not book any times with him. But once we do get some confirmations of our meetings, then we can have that conversation. With that, we'll move on to informational items. There's a number of those. The first one being from a letter to Councillor Christie, Acting Mayor Cooper, with from Minister Parmar, the Minister of Forests, thanking us for their letter and the meeting and the tour of Gold on June 8th. He also draws on attention that meetings of this nature allow government to understand the issues and opportunities affecting the various regions across the province, and a reaffirmation that more of the cabinet colleagues should be out there visiting different communities, or more specifically visiting Golden. What else we got? We also have a response from Minister Parmar with regards to our communications with regards to conflict to care, BC's forest future. Stating he's encouraged by the strong support expressed by the town of Golden and the CSRD, and appreciates our readiness to play a greater role in managing regional forest resources, and encouraging us to forge partnerships with ministry staff in our region, and specifically under the direction of the Deputy Minister. And the next one is a communication from the City of Salmon Arm. Again, just requesting the province's continued commitment to the local government climate action program. And that's an item that's come before us a couple of times before. It's also something council has acted upon and sent off a letter. There's a communication from the BC Nurses Union for an opportunity to nominate your local government to the next BC Nurses Union Healthcare Champion. So that was extended to August 12th, which has come and gone. But there is an award ceremony during UBCM. I think there's a couple more here. We have a communication from UBCM with regards to Building Community Strong Fund. It's actually our first fund payment of $122,454.73. Actually, Mr. Cochrane, can you speak to how those dollars are utilized on an ongoing basis? I believe there's a practice that we have.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. We're typically using those funds for our roadway patching program.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And we have the final communication is email from Kathy Peters with anti-human trafficking initiatives, making us aware that they will be at the UBCM trade show, the booth number, and an invite to come visit them. Okay, with that, we'll move on to internal correspondence. That the items of internal correspondence be received. Moved by Councilor Routley, seconded by Councilor Manuel. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And the first one is a memorandum from Mr. Cochran with regards to Columbia Basin Trust Arts Grant application. Sir.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Just a memo to council for information. July 15th, KHC applied to the Basin Arts Grant Program for 100% funding for the purposes of improving accessibility at the Civic Center through the main entry doors as well as the doors leading into the Great Hall. The value of the grant that they've applied for is just over $39,000. The net contributed asset that we would be considering if they're successful would be equipment and valued at approximately $17,000 for additional improvements there. The CBT advises that the adjudication timeline can take up to approximately 8 weeks to determine outcome.
So the first part is September, mid-September. Thank you for that. So this is an information item for council. And next, I'm looking for motion that the items of our outgoing correspondence be acknowledged. Councilor Guillo's looking for a seconder. Councilor Manuel seconding that, and all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And the one communication is as a result of the last council meeting, direction from council to provide a response to Mr. Lamarche with regards to mobile home parks. And it's there before you. And as noted in the letter, unfortunately, it was beyond the deadline, but there is for sure support for the District of Sault initiative. I guess we'll move on to council reports. It's summertime. See what this looks like. Any council reports? Councilor Manuel.
Couple ones. Regarding the Okanagan Regional Library, we had 2 libraries in the Summerland area. Both fortunately survived, and I believe the library, a couple other libraries are helping where they could. And we have confirmation, or we have a letter from the province saying that some of the money which has disappeared from what they gave us over the years is being restored, but the letter is somewhat ambiguous, so I want to take another look at it. We'll see what happens. And interestingly, I know this will fascinate you. This morning, our local branch had a visitation from a group who were on a maker tour, and they had one more community to go to, Revelstoke, and then they'd done 27. And if you want to know what a maker tour is, it's a traveling makerspace experience visiting ORL branches this summer. This year's Under the Sea Adventure lets children and families explore ocean science through coding, robots, engineering challenges, and creative activities. Now you know. And that's it.
Thank you for that. Any questions of Councilor Manuel? Seeing here none, any other council reports? Oh, look, Councilor Hamburg, anything? I'll take that as a no. Councilor Routley?
Thank you, Mayor. I will be brief. August 6th, the CSRD Committee of the Whole meeting. Pretty interesting discussion around the grant application prioritization policy for staff around setting the sort of the flow chart and the prioritization matrix that staff are going to utilize when they're approaching grant applications from other sources, and those opportunities for the board to weigh in politically to ensure that there's geographic diversity represented in that services in areas where there aren't a ton are still given a kick at the can for some bucks from the British Columbia or the federal government or others. Otherwise, on the 4th, had the opportunity to just kind of pop into Wild Sites Reflection Lake BioBlitz. It was a really interesting opportunity to chat with folks about some of the past and the potential future through the work that Cirque Ecological is doing with their feasibility study for Reflection Lake, and then to go out and scan some wildlife. Saw some belted kingfishers, which is great.
So my question is, did you know what about the kingfisher looked like before the session?
I am an avid birder.
Thank you. And thank you very much for attending the committee of the CSRD committee of the whole for me. Appreciated. Anything else, council?
Thank you.
Seeing here none, we will move on the agenda. We're on to reports from committees. So we have a report, a Regional Accessibility Advisory Committee progress update. I understand we have Ms. Sham online. Is that going to be the process as far as having Ms. Sham speak to the report? Good afternoon, Ms. Sham.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council.
So this is an unusual situation where I could actually control your mic and control mine.
It is a little odd for me right now.
Welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I wasn't intending to have much of a presentation. I did provide a staff report just giving an update. One thing that I can share is that we did indeed have our regularly scheduled meeting August 14th, just recently, to go over the survey results. The committee has decided that they will or would like to have the survey extended because they did notice that there were some areas that did not respond. So we have opened that survey back up. So it is live now. And we do have a commitment for the next meeting being October 2nd, with the commitment from the chair that there will be a draft accessibility plan available for the committee to edit or review prior to actually bringing forward their final draft.
Thank you for that. And I see that's all working towards a final plan being accepted. It says in the winter of 2026. Is that correct?
I am optimistic that we will get this done.
Thank you for that. Council, any comments, questions with regards to the report? Councilor Guil?
Thank you. I do have a question with regards to the terms of, this is the terms of reference that was signed in 2024. It was that we would be receiving the minutes from these meetings for our council. And as well, is there anybody representative on that board that group committee that is from Golden?
Ms. Sham?
Through Your Worship, the minutes we publish onto the CSRD website. Sounds like we need to do a better job of ensuring that all the member municipalities also add it to their agendas. They are available and are currently posted as well. Second part of your question being the membership, we currently do not have a representative from Town of Golden.
Follow up.
So when we do get this report, like this plan back, it's going to be very high level because it doesn't actually represent our municipalities' accessibility, notations. And then when I think about, so we're going to have to do work on this and also budget. Because I at this point, when we signed on to a regional plan, it was a year after it was actually due. And now we're coming up to the third year review of a plan that we don't have. And that's not really going to be fulsomely representing our community. So what are next steps if this is a board that meets, well, it was supposed to meet 4 times a year, I believe, and I think it met 5 times over the last 3 years. So when we do get this plan, you're still going to continue these meetings and we don't have a representative. So what do we do with this plan once we get it?
And that may, what do we do with the plan may be more appropriate for our staff. Ms. Denigar, are you able, wanting to wade into what your expectations are as staff as far as what that report would kind of include and what the expectation would be as far as what our staff would need to do to take that to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what that report is recommending from what they find. So we would be bringing it to council as a staff report outlining staff's view on it and where we see it actionable. And just like any other change to services, we would be outlining that impact and cost and timelines for actioning anything out of that report. If we were to withdraw from this and take on the committee ourselves, there'd be some having to regroup and figure it out from scratch very much. So it wouldn't necessarily speed up any outcome of a report. It may change the focus of it, being more focused just on our own community. But I know that many communities have struggled to get memberships in these groups. I mean, it was something that we were looking at in my previous employment, and it was a grind to try to get participants in this committee. So it's not unique, unfortunately, to this matter, to struggle to get these committees to form, let alone keep meeting. But either way, if whichever way this goes, staff would be bringing it forward as a formal report to council.
Supplement. I did, I spent a lot of time on this file. So I looked at what Kimberly had done, and we have a excellent age-friendly report, and they do have a lot of accessibility issues actually in that report. And that's what Kimberly had done. They kind of melded both of those reports together and created a committee. I find that it's hard to explain that to people that are facing accessibility issues in our community, that where we are at right now. I think we talk about being an inclusive municipality, and I think it feels like we dropped the ball.
So thank you. My apologies. A question to Ms. Sham with regards to the point that Councilor Guillo has brought up with regards to the age-friendly report and accessibility items that were identified in the report. Were those integrated into the work of the regional committee? Do you know offhand?
Yep. So through your worship, part of the initial meetings, we had provided all the completed accessibility plans around the province, as well as the provincial accessibility plan, reminding also that the committee members cannot bind any of the member municipalities or partners to do things. So this will be a very high level plan. It will touch on big picture ideas, and it would be up to each of the participants to then choose what level of comfort they would like to action any of the recommendations. So for example, City of Salmon Arm already has an active transportation committee and plan, so they probably won't be looking to this accessibility plan's transportation and mobility recommendations. They'd probably be looking at other things that perhaps they were unaware of. The purpose of this committee being that they're identifying barriers that maybe we do not live and do not know about. And so that each of the participants then go back to their organizations and go from there to go into their budgets and either do some of these recommendations or not to action them, because it is based on budgets. And again, this committee is advisory. They're not going to be mandating or stating that you must, thou shall. And so we do struggle a little bit, and I did kind of bring that up in my, not kind of, I did bring it up in my staff report that there is volunteer fatigue as well. And aside from giving honorariums or stipend or something for volunteers, it is quite a struggle to try to get people together. There are often people who are already working, and time is precious, and they're trying. And so trying to get 6 people's schedules to match has been also challenging, which is why the meetings have not always turned out the way. And as you can see, right when we have a full complement, people bow out, come back in, bow out, come back in. So there's just been a struggle in that sense, but we have been pushing. The current group is very active, and they are committed to getting this plan completed. But again, it's up to the participants in their own organizations to budget and do as they please with what the group has provided. We do also see that the participants have given questions that they've been receiving about accessibility and asking our advisory committee to comment on individual comments from the residents. For example, this last one, we had someone asking about ramps when it comes to patio and outdoor spaces. So we had the accessibility advisory committee comment on that, and we will be sending that out to all of the participants in order for everyone to see their recommendation regarding ramps in general. So there is not only just the plan and reviewing the plan, there's also that component of just advice from, again, their lived experience or their working with experiences with disabilities.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sham. We have a couple of other questions. Councilor Manuel, then Councilor Routley.
Just a request. I sit in on the age-friendly committee, and I've noticed in the past that I'm not really sure that they know what's being studied, kind of thing, in terms of how it's defined as accessibility for the purpose of this effort. And I was just wondering if I can get is there a definition of what is being studied, what is being acted on? And if so, I'd like to get a copy so I can share with the people in the age-friendly committee, so we're not misunderstanding what's being worked on. Thank you.
And Councilor Routley.
Thank you, and thank you, General Manager Sham. Recognizing that, so I guess just kind of confirming one process and then a couple of dates. So under the funding agreement, the extension of the funding agreement requires mutual agreement from the parties. So I guess a question to our staff, whether we're expecting kind of in September, council will be asked whether we would seek to continue. And then I guess on a continuation of that, I guess it's unfortunate that the draft won't be out until the 2nd, which is, a little bit after. And so despite the hard work that no doubt is going on, the value or the end product, the deliverable of the advisory committee won't be really out until after a decision has been made by council, whether or not it were to continue the work. Of course, there's the 6-month termination clause as well. So I guess just the first question, confirming that the expectation is we'll have a decision coming forward in September as to whether or not we'll continue. And then, yeah, whether it's possible to even get a draft of a draft or something just to support that decision.
Mr. Dennegar.
Yeah, we got 2 meetings in September, and we'll get it to one of those because, as we know, the extension has to be done by October 1st. So I'll await a formal email from Ms. Sham requesting renewal, assuming they want to keep working with us. And then staff will bring that to council. And then in terms of the draft, that is a question for the person on screen.
Ms. Sham?
Through your worship, I kind of want to go back to the other question as well before I forget it. We did a survey recently. We got the first snapshot of survey answers, and they did have representation from Golden at being 26% of the respondents. Part of that is responding to the age-friendly committee and what they're doing versus what this accessibility advisory committee is doing, is that the survey was to find out what is out there and what other people were experiencing that were different than maybe what the committee was experiencing. And so part of that is meeting this vision statement of identifying, remove, prevent barriers for individuals. The plan will be focused on that. That's that one. And then I've already forgotten the other one. Could you repeat the question on that, please?
There was two questions. You can confirm whether you'll not be requesting a renewal of the agreement, which then staff here would bring to council. And the second question is, would there be an opportunity to look at a draft of the plan?
Okay, through your worship, apologies for that. The draft is being worked on by the chair currently. She's given herself a bit of time here. She's hoping to get something mid-September drafted, and I can ask her to have that really rough draft shared, so that you can have that before your October 1st deadline. And yes, I can follow up with an email to formally request the funding.
You got a thumbs
extension.
up, Ms. Sham.
Okay.
Anything else, council? If not, thank you very much for attending and providing the information. Appreciated.
Thank you. See you Thursday.
Yes. And thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, with that, we'll move on our agenda to reports from staff. We have a chief administrative officer with a verbal update. Mr. Denigar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Starting off with my own activities with dates this time. Feels like a long time since our last council meeting. Gosh. July 22nd, attended and participated in a candidate information session. Thank you to the members of council who participated as well. That was, I think, a fantastic session. July 29th, had a quite important internal coordination meeting with staff about the interplay between the Canyon to Confluence, C2CI, Centennial Park, and the Spirit Square projects. Both of them are partially RMI funded or wholly RMI funded. And as the C2CI projects been striding ahead quite boldly with the help of Golden CED and other funding partners, as we've come together, we've realized we really do need to look at these two things hand in hand. So there's been a lot of internal discussion. What was a little thing off the side of staff's desk is now becoming a thing. But I think it's for the best, and we're going to have some conversations with the province about maybe slowing our Spirit Square project down a little bit and making sure that it fits nicely into the C2CI project. So a lot of strategy going on with that, giving us more surprise work, but I think it'll be good in the long run. July 30th, Tourism Golden, I had my monthly coordination meeting with Andy, who was here a while ago and left. So really good monthly meetings with Tourism Golden. I say the relationship with them has already been fantastic, and it just keeps getting better. All of our meetings are scheduled to be, I think, 45 minutes and end up being an hour and a half because there's so many things we're trying to work on together. So a really positive relationship there. August 1st through 9th, I was on vacation. And timed it perfectly because during that period of time, our deputy CAO, Chris Cochran, had the most exciting long weekend start to his deputy role with a rather large power outage and all the things that came with that. Everybody scrambling for fuel for their vehicle, including myself. I now own a jerry can. So a lot of learning from that. The EOC did their best. Staff stepped up and did their best to communicate. It was a struggle, though, just to be clear that we've got a lot of work to do, I think, advocating both at the staff level and political level with the other stakeholders in our community, being primarily BC Hydro, but also the cellular companies and internet companies, is that it really is incumbent upon them to communicate better. Keeping in mind, of course, that at the time of this occurrence, there were hundreds of outages across the province that BC Hydro was scrambling with. They were overwhelmed. We felt that as staff. I mean, that's what I've heard, is that staff who were trying to work with them, they were clearly overwhelmed with what was going on right across the province. But there may be technologies that could help with that. So we had an after action review, and another one's upcoming with more stakeholders at the table, including BC Hydro. So we hope to do better next time, because no doubt it will happen again. And we do need to have better plans for making sure everyone in Golden and the area knows what's going on and what to expect and where to buy fuel. August 10th, the C2CI team got together with town staff and Golden CED, who is sort of the overarching organization, helping them out with the finances and strategy and connections and getting them funding and all that, sort of the umbrella organization. So great to have them helping. We all got around here and took over this room and had a really good coordination meeting about next steps. There's a lot of back and forth and a lot of internal meetings within each organization. But I think it's moving forward in the right direction, and we'll be very excited to share plans as they get a little bit further along. Be sharing them with council and the community. Really good feedback through what we heard public engagements. I think I'll mention one of those later in my report, but yeah, so there'll be things coming up in September with sort of the broad strokes plans for Centennial Park and river access, and then costs, but that'll be probably a next year conversation. August 11th and 13th, more joint job evaluation committee works. That's the work that's done internally within this organization to make sure that all jobs are evaluated fairly and consistently across the organization. We're making good progress. We fine tune constantly. It's building the relationship between management and QP. Something that came out of a recent HR analysis is that our labor management relations are exceptionally good here, which I'm happy to hear. And this is an example of where we work hand in hand on things. And it was, again, reiterated in one of those JJACs that from QP National's perspective, that Town of Golden is actually a model that they're now referencing when they speak to other communities and other organizations, whether there be school boards, hospitals, or otherwise, is that we took the rather bold move to actually rewrite all job descriptions and not just review the old things that we had. I think we found a job description that was over 20 years old. A lot of organizations would just try to figure that out through their analysis, and we're like, no, let's do it right. So it's a lot of extra work for all the staff involved, but it's going to have a fantastic end result for everybody here. August 12th, as staff liaison, I attended the Tourism Gold Board meeting, kicked off with a presentation by Suzanne Denbach, a name of somebody I've worked with for many, many years. It's good to see her here in town. So she's been working with Tourism Golden on drafting their new 5-year strategic plan in the anticipation that council will support Tourism Golden continuing as the DMO for 5 more years. So from that delegation this morning, yes, that will be coming back at the September 1st meeting for the formal request for renewal and resetting the MRDT. And I think it was mentioned in some back and forth with Andy about other uses of MRDT and other sources of voluntary tax. I don't know what uptake there'll be on that, but those conversations are happening between all levels of government and the province about expanding MRDT and looking at other funding sources. There's also some conversation ongoing between a number of organizations in the community about carving off some of the MRDT for staff housing or affordable housing, but that's complicated and sensitive. So it's all I can say is that the awareness is there and the conversations have started. It's a tricky one. August 13th, participated in the Resort Community Collaborative CAO meeting. That was a planning session for the upcoming UBCM meetings with the ministries, including preparation for materials for the RMI community mayors for upcoming meetings and community presentations at the anticipated UBCM meeting. we hope to keep moving things forward with getting the province, who's been very supportive, like surprisingly to the point where CAOs are wondering if they're messing with us. But the province has been very supportive of looking at new sources of revenue that are not on taxpayers, but are on visitors to town to help tackle our infrastructure and service challenges that come with increased tourism. It's a double-edged sword, so we want to make sure we handle it well. And the province has been very receptive to that. So we'll keep working on that. And finally, for myself, August 17th, had a coordination meeting with Golden CED's executive director, covering everything from our economic services service review that council gave direction on. So we're going to try and make sure they're working in lockstep on that so that it's a really robust, helpful document for all organizations beyond just the town and Golden CED, but for anybody who's looking at EOF funds. Hopefully that will support as well the CSRD. If there's anybody from CSRD, I hope they hear this, that we would love to support them in updating their policy F29, because I think it could be useful to both the board and to us as a participant to have some more guidance on how do we make these decisions. And so I think this service level review that we're talking about, if we work hand in hand with the big organizations in town that typically get the EOF funding, especially Golden CED, that will have something that's really useful to be the foundation of that moving forward. So everything from that to just strategic alignment between the town and Golden CED and our plans for housing strategy, affordable housing strategy, accessible housing, staff housing. A lot of fantastic ideas. I think council would be thrilled to hear what the ideas are. So I've encouraged the executive director to keep working with us and bring something back. I know that there's that outstanding $50,000 offer from council, basically, that Golden CED come back and make a presentation about some EOF funding for housing. So that's going to be coming in the next little while whenever the ED has time. But there's a much bigger list of opportunities. So more to come on that soon. And that was just me. Oh my gosh. Let me get to my departments. If you need a break, let me know. Corporate services and communications, I'm going to look to my left and say thank you, Carrie White, for doing a fantastic job. You and your team have been doing an amazing job while Alicia Seville has been gone on a much deserved vacation. And as all things, when the department head goes on vacation, all hell breaks loose. So she timed that perfectly and you've handled it very well. Thank you. Finance and admin, long-term financial plan for asset management. I know that project is in some of your minds. It is in mine. It's a big one. So continued progress on this project with phase 1, discovery and data gathering, has been substantially completed. Phase 2, data analysis, is well underway. So that project is on track. Recurring monthly finance check-ins held with operational departments to provide structured financial support as needed. So this is sort of just ongoing alignment between the finance department and each department, but also in preparation for budget. You know, this ever-going cycle is, I'd say that the finance department and all the participating departments are doing a really good job of formalizing that structure of communication and planning. Really good to hear. CFO was invited to teach at the Government Finance Officers Association of BC, GFOABC, invited to teach at their boot camp for 2026 and attended as a member of the faculty for the week. She delivered 2 full days of instruction to municipal finance officers on the sources and uses of funds. That sounds like it covers everything. And property taxation. So the 2 biggies. So she taught those courses, so congrats to her. And finally, for finance and admin, we have hired a casual administrative clerk, Kim Bryan, to support cross-departmental administrative operations, and they're currently assigned to the corporate services department. So if you see somebody around, say hi. Planning and development, the official community plan referral input has been integrated for the 2nd and 3rd reading of the bylaw. There's been significant liaising with the fire department and the building official on the fire development permit area, or DPA. I almost said nuisances, nuances. So there's been a lot of work with the fire department on DPA details. So yes, progress on that. Development cost charges bylaws received provincial and legal review, and the changes have been implemented into that bylaw. Significant work on the BC housing project continues, engineering and legal agreements, as well as North Bench projects and other development inquiries and proposals. So I think Mr. Armstrong has been doing a lot of back and forth with legal on many of these agreements that are rather new to our organization in some very complex and challenging situations we're faced with. So kudos to him for keeping all the balls up in the air as he juggles it all. Please do expect an update on the Spirit Square Washroom What We Heard report, as well as the C2CI Centennial Park in September. So that's following from some of the discussions that I mentioned earlier between staff and these groups, is that we're going to try and bring these all together as a cohesive What We Heard so that council can look at it all in context, because they do interplay. Some building permits of note in Q2 in July, 10 housing starts up to the end of July. Rondo converting the old pool area into the office and cafe breakfast area. 1122, as you see, is well underway. There's a splitting of the old Louisiana Pacific Wood Tech office into 2 suites by Durston Gear. And tenant improvement for the old dentist office issued for the court registry office. So busy. Summer doesn't seem to slow down for that department. Over at Protective Services in our fire department, the EOC has been activated at level 1 for the duration of the 2026 wildfire season, which nowadays means probably until Christmas. So support is ongoing with the monitoring, coordination, and information sharing with BC Wildfire Services during the current period of extreme fire weather. This represents the 7th activation of the EOC this year. The emergency plan, originally developed in 2005, is undergoing a comprehensive rewrite to align with the current best practices, legislative requirements, and the Emergency and Disaster Management Act, EDMA. The new plan is currently in its first revision stage. Over at Public Works, Pine Drive sanitary main installation work is ongoing. Well 7 work is expected to commence after Labor Day, September 7th. And in-house vac truck sanitation collection system, our sewer system, the flushing work is ongoing around town. If you see a vac truck, that's what it's doing. And Graham Fail, our new engineering technician, started at the town hall on August 4th. He's just down that hall there if you want to say hi after the council meeting. And as well, just yesterday, Martin Lavoie, our new automotive technician and relief equipment operator, started at Public Works. So if you're over there, say hi. And finally, last but not least, the Recreation Services Department. The installation of the Recplex Center roll divider curtain is now completed and ready for fall activities. I want to go over there and throw myself against it and see how strong that curtain is. Renovations on the Recplex lobby and arena concession are ongoing, but anticipated to be completed before fall activities begin. The annual ice making process is nearing completion, with the arena opening for the season this weekend. Work on the Recplex Park Block Washroom project is anticipated to start next week. So go on by and have a look. The pool operation season is starting to ramp down, with the last day of operations happening on Sunday, September 6th. So if you haven't gotten your swimsuit yet wet, go for a swim. Staff have been busy with interviews for various fall part-time program clerk positions at Rec. So if you know people interested in Rec, please tell them to check out our jobs page, golden.ca/jobs, or just go pester Mr. Petrovitz. Let him know you're interested. And staff have meetings with the Golden Pickleball Club, Golden Cycling Club, and the Disc Golf Association to discuss various desired upgrades and future granting opportunities. There's a lot of keenness from these groups to keep increasing the value of our facilities. So our director, as usual, works with them to try and find them granting sources and bring staff reports back to council. That is my report for this month.
Thank you very much for the report. Council, any quick comments, questions? Councilor Manuel?
On the emergency plan, I just talking to someone about that the other day, and what they talk about and what seems to be very common is, well, getting out of town if you need to. And of course, you could have no one plan. It depends where the fire is or wherever. And I was thinking, I was thinking, but that's not an operational thing to do, so I apologize, but if we put something out so people knew where to get the most up-to-date information, and maybe including all media, including maybe our local paper or local radio station, I think, and made that available. And I think a lot of people would appreciate that, okay, if I'm not worried of, this is where I get the information if I see flames or whatever. Yeah, just an idea, but people do, people do worry about like what's going to happen and how do I know and how do I get the right information and all the time if I need to. Yeah.
Mr. Dedegaard?
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna start with it's a good point there that there's a difference between a strategy and a plan, right? And that we need to be careful that we don't overprescribe something through a plan, and that a lot of things that we may be looking at, what's the plan? What we're actually trying to develop is a strategy, right? So that it can be dynamic and adjust to the situation, right? And that the plan may come out of that strategy on the fly, and then we need to communicate it. So yeah, as to how detailed we get and how much time we waste trying to figure out every possible scenario, it may be better spent building a strategy. When a plan is available, if there's, only 3 ways out of town or 5 ways out of town, if you take the logging roads, that at a high level would be considered. And then in terms of communicating that, we do have the alerting system. If something truly is an emergency, if we're having to get to the level of an evacuation alert, that would be the time that we would communicate that out, because we don't want to give people advice now that may actually endanger them when an event occurs, right? If they're looking at old, outdated information. So we have to be careful how and when we communicate, and that's all part of the plan, as well as we have a crisis communications plan that's in draft and being circulated internally to make sure we've covered everything off. So those will work hand in hand. And we did get some good learning opportunities from that August long weekend as to what happens when people don't have cell service and internet service. Where do people go to find out? I had my little wind up radio, that wind it 20 times and you can hear AM and FM. So we do have a radio station in town. There's things like that we can communicate out in preparation ahead of time, so people can always have their grab and go bag, have their radio, and know those communication sources. So that's all part of what staff are looking at to really boost our program and make sure the community knows where to look for information and that it's up to date and correct, so it's safe for them.
Thank you for that. Anything else, Council? I have a couple quick comments. Great to hear about the after action review process that you're going through. Just a comment with regards to BC Hydro and their communications. Good luck having been worked on the Columbia River Treaty Local Government Committee, and that is a subcommittee. There's a communications with BC Hydro subcommittee to address that solely. So it is a work in progress. Amazing that labor management relationships are good and in fact being used as a model. Kudos, that's fantastic. With regards to the RCC, with the recent change of Minister Osborne to the Minister of Finance, I think that's extremely valuable, given that Minister Osborne in a previous life was the mayor of Tofino, which is one of the resort communities. Great to hear all these larger projects are moving forward through the process. They are long-term investments. And one item, that's a CAO report. I feel compelled to do a bit of a CEO report, and that's relative to the time change. And just wanted to be said here publicly that the town of Golden and electoral area have not made any decisions with regards to the time zone at this point in time. We're working together, and that item will come to council, and electoral area director Cathcart will be part of that conversation on September 1st. So just for the public's information, there has not been a decision for a municipal Golden or electoral area A of the Columbia-Shuswap Regional District. There has been a decision by our Regional District of East Kootenay, but that does not impact. It could have influence, but it does not dictate which direction our community is going to go. So I'll just end with that, and my apologies. If there's nothing else, we'll move on the agenda to Public Works, and we have a staff report from Mr. Cochran with regards to knocking down stuff.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Following an unfortunate fire at the Horseshoe Club building in July, I was asked to bring forward a report to consider options for dealing with the underutilized and decrepit facility at the Horseshoe property. In the staff report, there's a history of the property use for council and public information. Happy to go through it if you'd like. I would skip forward to the discussion though, and say that the recommended steps contained in the report are to proceed with a hazardous materials assessment, a detailed one, and prepare a tender specification for hazardous materials abatement in the event that the town determined to either proceed with demolition or renovation of the facility. The information that we have on hand just isn't detailed enough to facilitate either of those processes. So that's the recommendation before council, allowing staff to award a contract to Pynchon Limited for hazardous materials assessment, a detailed assessment with preparation of an abatement tender specification for the price of not to exceed $12,500 plus tax, with the expenditure coming from the asset operating reserve. And further the council directs staff to bring forward to the Standing Committee on Finance for consideration a budget request for building demolition and disposal to take place in 2027. Just backing up a bit, currently the school district has a license of occupation over the property for use for elementary school learning, with including storage, limited storage in the facility, classroom learning on the deck, and general use of the property. That license of occupation expires June 1st of 2027. So the proposal would be to consider acting after that expires. Staff did consider rehabilitation of the facility to generate revenue, and the reasons to not proceed in that fashion are stated in the staff report. Basically, the facility has been unused without benefit of heat or utilities since about 2009. Back at that time, when the town was going through a bunch of asset management program work, this facility was excluded from regular funding. So it's sat basically unfunded since that time. So it's very degraded. It's got we're aware of asbestos for sure, but probably other hazardous materials in the facility that aren't conducive to regular use without mitigation. And we have a lot of other facilities that could benefit from additional funding, maintenance funding. That's outlined in the discussion as well. Based on our 2021 facility condition assessment reports, over a 10-year period, we've got about an $8 million obligation for several facilities. So all things to consider. I think I'd welcome any questions at that time.
Thank you for that. Council, any questions of clarification prior to getting the resolution on the floor? Councilor Guil?
Yeah, when someone comes in, takes the building away, do they have that ability to do the assessment on the hazards? Like, do companies kind of do both?
Mr. Cochran?
Yeah, as it's explained in the report, Pynchon, an example of a company that can do that. They can do assessments and coordinate demolition as well. Hazardous materials abatement is very specialized with a lot of regulation around it. So I'm sure it wouldn't be a case of a local contractor, for example, coming in and abating, or sorry, to correct that, to coming in and assessing the level of hazardous materials in the facility to later abate. They might come in and be able to abate the material based on a prescription, and then demolish the building.
Thank you for that. Councillor Manuel?
I have been in the area. I mean, that area was used for the schools and kids. And with that background, and we know it's hazardous, I think we need to act on it. I don't want small children exposed to hazardous materials when we know about it. No.
So I'll take that as you moving the motion.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm looking for a seconder. Councillor Rutley seconding that. I guess I will say you had me at underutilized and decrepit. Is this a sole source contract, or have we followed our processes, contract processes with regards to this? I just throw that out to you, please.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Your Worship. Based on our procurement policy, specialized work of this nature can be direct awarded. It doesn't touch on a value that would normally bring it to council. It's just a matter of primarily that for the abatement portion of it, we didn't have it budgeted this year. So it requires a budget amendment.
Okay, thank you for that. And that's the word that was eluding me, procurement policy. Anything else, council? We got a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much for the report.
Thank you.
And moving on further down the agenda, we're off to 10C, which is the planning development. Councilor Rutley.
Thank you, Worship. As with the previous meeting, I'll take the opportunity to recuse myself based on my indirect pecuniary interest in the beverage alcohol sector with my private employment. So I will top up on coffee and vacate.
Thank you. Don't slam the door behind you. So we have a staff report from Mr. Armstrong.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Zeus. I did warn Pat Laguerre, the business operator who's here, that this would be a long time before we got to this item. So thanks for your patience in sitting through here. Just really briefly, as this was presented to council about a month ago, the Rockwater is expanding into the old Reposado space is one of the purposes of this liquor license application. And the second is to bring the second story or rooftop patio into the Rockwater umbrella as was originally intended. It's been licensed under the bistro for about a little over a decade, as I think that was the quickest way to open it in the summer of 2014, I believe. And the bistro has a liquor license as a food primary, and it is able to be open till 2. And council's liquor policy was adopted in 2019. So, and its policy states that council will typically consider patios open until 11 p.m. Now, that there's some language there for council to consider. Typically, this is the downtown. There are other bars in the area, and there is a lower patio that is that is liquor primary and able to be open till 2. So there is some flexibility and consideration, and being the 2 patios can have different times as well. So that's really the main item for consideration as part of this application. The whole application, of course, is there, and just kind of following into some of the background. A month ago, council gave direction to conduct public notification. It was conducted as outlined on page 2 of the report, and we received one piece of correspondence from the neighboring property owner, Higher Ground Moon Cycle, Lolly Gagnon, and also attached to the report is some previous correspondence from another application in 2017. Council also at the last meeting asked for staff to coordinate with the building official and fire department in regards to exiting primarily off the patio. the operator in their professional manner has already upgraded a couple fire alarm signage that's there that resulted in that visit. So there is 2 exits, just signage has been augmented. And I think on page 3, there's a couple examples of other patios in the footnote that have been approved by councils in the past to 11 p.m. Granted, not in the core part of the downtown. And in conclusion, staff is recommending in alignment with the policy that the rooftop patio be closed at 11, but there are 3 options appended at the end of the report for council to consider. I'll just remind the chair that we should, as per our notice, provide opportunity for both the gallery and the virtual gallery to make any representations to council. Thank you.
Thank you. With that suggested direction, I'll ask if there are any comments from anybody in the gallery present here with regards to this application. Asking a second time. Asking a third and final time, and then going to the virtual gallery. Is there anybody in the virtual gallery who would like to make a representation with regards to this item? Asking a second time. Asking a third and final time. So with that, Mr. Armstrong, there appear to be no other representations with regards to this item. And so now council is coming before you with a recommendation. Is there any questions of clarification prior to getting a resolution on the floor? Councilor Cooper?
Thank you. I noted in the letter that it was saying that not to permit to 2 a.m., but the fact is the license currently held is till 2 a.m., so it's not actually changing the license. Is that not correct?
The nuance is that it's the rooftop patio is licensed till 2 a.m. Presently, but they have to have the kitchen open if they want to have that rooftop patio open. The liquor primary bar, the Rockwater itself is also allowed to be open till 2 a.m. without liquor service. That's the difference. It's food primary versus liquor primary.
Any follow-up, Councilor Cooper?
Okay. So sorry, I'm just trying to figure out. So it's changing the license from the food to, if we change just the license, it would be allowed to stay open to the 2 a.m. time that it is. But if it's changed, the question is, are we going to allow it to close or asking it to close at 11 instead of the 2 a.m. that it's currently licensed for? Is that correct?
Mr. Armstrong?
Correct, or some other time, and there's other elements to the application, but I suppose that's the one part that council may want to give a bit further consideration to is that patio time. But yeah, and also the owner here, Pat, is here if council wanted to hear from Pat directly.
Thanks, Pat. Any follow-up, Councilor
Well, and
Cooper?
then-
Is it clear in your mind?
Yeah, and then it's like the other patios downtown are able to open till 2 a.m. currently.
Yep, the bar, the River House, and the Rockwater's current liquor primary patio on the ground floor are all licensed till 2 a.m. And then the distillery and the brewery are till 11.
Okay.
Any other questions before we get a resolution on the floor? I guess I have one with regards to the recommendation of, just trying to look back in the recommendation was 11 p.m. Was that something that was discussed with the owner? Discussed, negotiated?
Well, we had various pre-application conversations with the idea of maybe Pat, the operator, coming forward with somewhere in the middle, and ultimately, just I think for consistency, and Pat could speak to it, in his existing food primary license, just wanting to keep everything at 2 is the application that was put forward.
Okay, with that, I'm going to take the opportunity. Pat, any comments you'd like to make with regards to your application and the? Okay, so I'm just trying to get for myself, get a takeaway from that, and it's like what I'm hearing from you is ideally you'd like it to continue until 2 a.m. I'm hearing it almost I can live with it till 11 p.m. Is that a fair assessment? Okay, thank you. That's the clarification I was looking for. Yeah, and that's why I'm asking. Thank you for that. Councillor Wheel?
I have a question. If yeah,
Thank you, Ms. White.
if it was going to go to 11 p.m. because of its primary liquor, would you still change your license? Or would
I
you
mean-
stay at the food primary?
I don't want it to stay food primary. It's irrelevant to the building, the geography of it all. When it originally was licensed for food primary for the White Tooth, it was totally, I don't know why it was done that way.
I know, but the question is, if you do not get the 2 a.m., would you stay at food primary?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions of clarification prior to getting a resolution on the floor? Councillor Wheel, follow.
I'll just make the resolution if you like.
Okay.
I choose option 2, presented and include a term and condition for the proposed hours of the roof patio close at 11 p.m. recommended as consistent with council policy.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there a seconder to that motion? Council Manuel seconding that motion. Council discussion on the motion. Council Cooper?
Well, yeah, like the only reason I think that it should stay at the 2 a.m. just because that's what the other bars are licensed to. So to me, it feels a bit unfair that one bar would not be granted the same 2
Thank you.
a.m. closures that the other bars are granted because they're all within the same distance and they're all within the 2 a.m. and they're all patios. So having one that is only licensed that is not the intent to stay open to 2 a.m., but having the option for occasional things, I feel is a reason to go with option 1.
So speaking against
you.
option.
Speaking against option 2.
Okay. Speaking to the motion, Councillor Grill?
Well, looking at the comments that were received in I guess it was 2017 when they.
So that's
20
9 years ago.
I know
Yeah.
people are still living there in those apartments.
No, I understand that, but
And I know, but I'm just going to continue.
That opportunity for debate, just
Yeah.
speak your.
And then the one that's living downtown as well. Like at least when you have food primary, you have an option to eat, and it's not just liquor, right? So it gets noisier when there's people aren't eating, and I just think that 11 p.m. you said that the what is it, the distillery and the brewery close at 11. Is that right? Yeah.
So that's.
I've had
speaking in support-
complaints, so I
different rules for manufacturers.
So you're speaking in support of the motion. Council Manuel speaking to the motion.
Just saying, I understand what you said, that it. Sorry, I didn't say that. That you don't get much business up there for selling liquor up the top after 11. Okay.
Well,
But you, sorry?
I don't know, because we're
Yeah,
not doing this right now because it's been a problem, and I just for me to have it open right now, it requires food.
Yeah.
That's mandatory. Which our kitchen is pretty maxed out in the summer, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just haven't been open.
Yeah.
So we're just missing on a pretty awesome opportunity. And
So, Mr.
Just like
Council Manuel, did that provide you with the information you're looking for?
Well, quite honestly, from what I read, I thought
Yeah.
that you were saying that you don't get many people up there wanting to stay longer than 11, into the current thing. But, and I'm just wondering, you have the,
And
lower,
Councilor Manuel, this is an opportunity for debate with the presenter. This is an opportunity to state a position relative to the motion that's on the floor.
then I do support it.
Okay. Councilor Hambrick, you want to speak to the motion?
If I may add,
Yeah,
Actually,
yes, thanks, your worship. It's difficult for me to make a decision, but I think going to the 11 p.m. would set a direction and stays within council policy. So I will be supporting it.
thank you for that. You had some supplemental information I'll allow.
our capacity right now is 356 without that patio. That patio alone is 96 people. And with the new space in the old Reposado, there's an extra 120 whatever and change. But we're maxing out at 400 because of the washrooms. Therefore, we're adding, even though the space that we're trying to add to the license is quite big, we're only adding 46 people here. That is it. The foot traffic will literally be exactly the same. It's not going to bring an extra crowd. The same people are out. The population is still the same. Drinkers or the number is roughly the same still.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'll speak to the motion and I'm gonna be voting against the motion. And I do that based on the consistency with the other liquor primary places. Also the fact that you, as I understand it and haven't been up there before, you have residences or rooms to rent
There are,
right there that
yeah.
are at the doorstep, basically. So I see that as being serving your own interest to keep the noise level down by virtue of you having guests there. So I would be voting in favor of, I'll be voting opposed to the motion that's presently on the floor. Any other speakers to the motion? All those in favor of the motion? I've got Councilor Dale, welcome. All those opposed? This is probably the first time Councilor Cooper and I have agreed on anything. And it has to be booze related. The motion is carried.
Okay.
With that, we will move on to 10D, which is Recplex washrooms, and we have a staff report from Mr. Pedfix.
Thank you, Worship. Back in May, we posted a bid package for developing our washroom project to complete off the Recplex block. Of course, this is the washroom building that we're intending to build right beside the outdoor rink / basketball courts. Oh yeah, I'll let Councilor Utley get back in and settled.
Sorry about that, Councilor Utley. It's amazing how quickly we forgot about you.
So back in May, we posted a bid package to build and develop the washroom as part of our master plan for the Recplex Park block. As we started going back and forth with the contractor, some of the servicing details were left out of the bid package, and we're now looking at requesting a budget amendment so that we can move forward with the actual servicing tie-ins. That's the servicing right into the actual water lines and sewer lines that are in the street, to be able to get this building serviced up and hopefully built before the snow is in full swing. We reviewed the funds that are associated with the Community Works funds and the White-Tooth Legacy budget, which of course are spread between the Racket Course project and the park block itself, and have a fairly healthy contingency that is left in the funding that we had associated for the pickleball and tennis courts. As that project is now complete, we are hopeful that we can amend the budget to have that funding come to the Recplex project to finish off some of these cost overages that we're running into with the washroom. There is a slight error in the recommendation, so I will let Ms. White pull open the edit to that. Sorry, housekeeping on our part, and people on overlapping holidays. We missed that. So we simply are looking to shift the $136,870 that we have earmarked for the racket courts project to the Recplex Park Block project to help cover the overages that we're running into. I'll welcome any questions.
Thank you for that. Council, any questions of clarification prior to getting the resolution on the floor? Actually, I guess I have one. I can't help myself. My apologies. The cost of water and sewer tie-ins were missed in the bid package.
Mhm.
How does this happen?
So the bid package itself brought all the tie-ins right to the curb stop, as in if you were building a house, to basically bring everything to the municipal property lines. And yeah, that extra 10, 15 feet, and then the process of actually hot tapping into the pipes was missed. In part, I don't specialize in drafting these bid packages on a regular basis, and just with existing staffing capacity, we missed it in our reviews when we posted the package. So
Thank you for that. I respect stuff happens.
yeah, it's yeah, you can make as many washroom jokes as you like.
No, thank you. So council, we have a recommendation before us. Looking for a mover. Councillor Rutley moving that. Seconder and Councillor Cooper. Any further discussion? Councillor Rutley?
Just for clarity, it is the recommendation as amended by staff. So it's really just the
As-
second portion of the recommendation as in the reports.
Thank you. My apologies. No further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you. And so do the racket sports people know that there was residual funds?
Based on the civil works associated with the racket courts project, we purposely built in a healthy contingency when we look at the amount of earth and compaction and that aspect of the project. So when we did develop these budgets, I was very specific to make sure we had wiggle room, and unfortunately, we've got to wiggle it in a different direction to get the entire project done.
Thank you for that. With that, we'll move on to item 10E, which is Fire Services Department and the staff report that we have from Mr. Wilkie, who I believe is online. Is that correct?
Almost. Is the director of finance that'll be speaking to it, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you for that. My apologies. So please go ahead, Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor Ozust. Doing a brief rundown of a few grants that are in the Emergency Operations Center control. The first grant was approved back in April 2025, and subsequent to the shift in the management of the EOC, there has been some reworking of the funds that remain unspent. And so we're just looking for approval of the planned expenditures from the initial grant. And then in terms of the second grant, there was an application that was submitted this year, and the EOC received approval in June 2026, and that grant is for $26,000. And they would like to use that to fund the EOC training and exercises. So both of these grants are 100% funded. So there is no contribution required from the town, and it helps to cover quite a few expenses related to our Emergency Operations Center. Overall, we're looking for an amendment to the budget to allow for the expenditure of the additional grant of $26,000 for the 2026 to 2030 financial plan. I welcome any questions you have regarding those grants.
Council, any questions prior to get a resolution on the floor? Councilor Rutley, then I have myself.
Thank you. There's the within the report mentioned that the funder UBCM may require like a further resolution supporting the equipment shift. Is that language, like, is the language presented kind of sufficient, or we'll just wait until they maybe have some more specific language thereafter? Or would there be would staff seek a supplementary kind of just coverage resolution to make sure that that's in the books?
Ms. Brown?
That is a great question. I believe the director of protective services has crafted this to be the wording that is required, but perhaps with the support of Ms. White, we could add in the approval of the equipment grant expenditures in 2026 as well. I'm not sure. So the equipment grant. No additional funding is required. I think it is simply council's agreement that the staff will spend the remaining balance of the 2025 grant on equipment. So lighting, fire, weather monitoring. So as a part of this report, I think that it may be sufficient unless there's a simple line to be added. Ms. White.
Thank you for that. Mr. Janigar?
Amusingly, that was actually in the draft report. We had a separate of this thing that actually had that resolution ahead of time. Typically, UBCM understands that council meetings happen on a cadence. So rather than do an unnecessary resolution, we would wait for them if they had a concern, and then we bring it back. And even though the whole thing be signed off and done by then, they would then, for their paperwork purposes, get a resolution from you. But we didn't want to waste time doing it if we didn't need to.
Excellent. Thank you for the clarification. I guess the one question I had was with regards to the use of the funds to ensure staff are appropriately trained. Is the OC only staffed by town staffed by Town of Golden employees? Are there no other community members, volunteers? In the absence of Mr. Wilkie, I know this is not a question for Ms. Brown. I'll go to Mr. Denigar.
Yeah, staff is used in a broad way in this report. Staff could be anybody that we contract through the EOC. It could be community volunteers, it could be volunteer firefighters, it could be town staff, it could be CSRD staff. So yeah, when you read staff there, it doesn't mean town staff specifically.
Okay, I thank you for that clarification, because that's been a concern of mine ongoingly, as with many other people, is that when we actually have an event, and we've seen that at the Columbia Regional District, where it actually consumes your staff so that ongoing operations are challenged. So I appreciate that there is the opportunity for the broader community, volunteers, members, and others to be included in that definition of staff. Thank you for that. Councilor Mann, you had your hand up.
I'm just wondering if there is any coordination with outside groups, not staff, but like ESS. Last time when we did have an event, I remember Mr. Petrovic scurrying over every once in a while to let us know what was happening. It might be nice if there was some kind of, better coordination or something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure. But they are deeply involved, and most recently they're just across the street. So it's good for them to know what's happening.
Any comments, Mr. Janigar?
I can say that the relationship of the ESS as part of their emergency program has been ramped up dramatically since Wilkie's come on board. There's now an actual legal agreement in place with the ESS director. There is compensation financially for that role because it is an important role. And the coordination and collaboration between them is better than it's ever been before.
Sounds good.
Thank you for that. So council, we have a recommendation. Look for a mover. Councilor Wheel moving that. Councilor Cooper seconding that. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing, hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And with that, we move on to 11. We have a staff report from Mr. Armstrong with regards to the official community plan bylaw 1516, 2026. Second and third reading, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. So just following up on both first reading and the amendments that were made there too, and then public hearing. We're in front of council today for second reading as amended and third reading. Just to recap, a few changes happened as part of first reading as amended, and that was removing a lot of the references to NGOs or nonprofits and community partners, as well as a few minor map changes. And then formal referrals went out. We heard back from 5 referral agencies, CSRD, Ministry of Water, Lands, Resources, Interior Health provided a great report with lots of compliments about our OCP, so that was nice, including the short-term rental regulations, which surprised me that they were commenting on nonetheless. And the Ministry of Transportation, no comment, and the Agricultural Land Commission, based on our one parcel in town. So those feedbacks were included. And I included a red line version of the OCP just so council could flip through that. And you know, in retrospect, I should have just included the redlined pages for to shorten up this package a little bit, but nonetheless, it's there for integrity. The largest edits were done to the wildfire development permit area while there's 2 major fires happening in the Okanagan, but nonetheless, I think it's important that this is an important element in the new OCP to have this wildfire DPA. It's an interface DPA, but also drafting it in a nuanced way of if somebody in an existing single detached lot in Canyon Ridge or Selkirk Hill wants to build an addition to their property or an accessory building that there isn't a very complex, expensive, qualified professional route for that we can lean on our Fire Smart coordinator, and eventually if there's a fee for that put into the bylaw, like there'll be a bit of a development permit application fee as there is, and those fees will be relooked at, but there can also be a later fee for that would be much less than having a qualified professional or person undertake that. And then there's just some language adjustments there to ensure some clarity. So with all that, second and third is here for council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Council, what's the wishes of council? Question of clarification for Councilor Guile.
There's a table 7.2 in there. That one, it has named partners in it. Was there written confirmation of the role? Because it talks about like, and the commitment between the town of Golden and those named partners.
Councilor Guile, are you able to identify the page, PDF page?
I wish I could. It was like a, yeah,
So just so that everybody else can follow along.
yeah. I just wrote down the table. Sorry. Do you know where it is? 7.2.
Page 81 of 139.
Yeah, there it is.
Yes, I guess in short, no. But I will commend both Golden CD, Joel Dutai, who's in the gallery here, and the work of Local Food Matters, for example, for their involvement in the drafting. But a lot of these items sit with the town and are logical parts of what the work that Golden CD has done and others. And maybe this is one of those areas where we missed removing some community partners. So my apologies for that. But
so Councilor Guile, do you have a desire?
Yeah, I have a desire because it just seems like we have a commitment with them, or they have a commitment to us, which I don't think we have anything in or want to have a commitment, and that we don't have anything in writing to. I think they should be
Identify
removed.
that.
It should be removed.
Any response, Mr. Armstrong, to the suggestion at this point in time?
No, I think just a resolution to remove that, and we will for the adoption version. No problem.
Okay, so procedurally, we look for your motion first, and then we deal with the motion as amended. Is that procedurally the way to go?
I think the clerk, Carrie, is just making an edit, and it should be all included in this. And maybe some language right after second reading is amended, I think, in brackets.
Yeah, it is up to you as chair if you want to consider that as a separate decision point.
And I'm happy to have it included in the motion, in the original motion. And we'll just give Ms. White a little bit of time. So, Councillor Routley, a question of.
Yeah, just a question of clarity. So then in essence, are we just eliminating just the entire column that identifies lead responsibility and partners and just identifies these action items? Because otherwise then it's just Town of Golden all the way through and it's kind of redundant.
So, Mr. Armstrong, would that be one of the consequences of removing 7.2 if it was removed?
It's definitely one way of handling the direction. I'm open to either one.
Okay, Councillor Guil?
It's just going by the direction that we set last time. That is just not, it was missed.
Councillor Cooper, you had your hand up earlier?
No, I agree. When I was looking at it, we did set direction that we were removing partners that were not partners within with agreements. These are not agreements. These are working relationships. So I agree that it should be moved altogether.
So we'll look to staff and see what we can get on the board as far as a resolution, Mr.
I'm gonna
Dennegar.
I'm gonna recommend that it actually just be that column, because there's a valid point there that if you look at the context right above it, it does name the initiatives, the actions that are gonna occur. So those actions are still valid, right? We just aren't naming the party, because it really would be Town of Golden for every single one, which would be kind of.
Column naming.
Editing bylaws on the fly.
Honestly, yeah, I agree, because the intent is the action, not the partnership. So
Okay, so Councillor Routley, I saw your hand kind of going up. No. So I'm looking for somebody to move the motion that we have on the board there. Councillor Guil, moving that, looking for, or speaking, actually, I'll move it, get it on the floor before we speak to it. Looking for a seconder. Councillor Cooper seconding, please, you can speak to it now.
No, I have nothing more to say. I think I explained
Okay.
myself. Yeah.
Councillor Routley?
Thank you. Just a question with the report, with the referrals, certain agencies or community partners have asterisks, and I was just seeking some clarity on what an asterisk means within the report.
Mr. Armstrong?
Good question. That was a carryover from the previous report where I think it just meant agencies we'd already sent during the engagement rounds we'd previously engaged with them, and then some we hadn't, and I think I may have missed removing the asterisks here. So my apologies for that confusion.
No, I appreciate it. So I'm hearing the kind of asterisk for the first round of formal engagements, and then anyone else is kind of tacked on afterwards. So thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Motion duly seconded as presented on the board. No other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you for that. And now we go on to 11B, which is staff report with regards to Town of Golden Development, Town of Golden Development cost charges. Mr. Armstrong.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So there's been a whole large timeline to this project, but I was pleased on June 25th, Council gave final bylaw drafting direction, and after really some good suggestions along the way, I think we have a good bylaw moving forward with the residential square meter aspect as well. I think that's a solid trend along with one of our neighbors. That I think a lot of other municipalities will be heading in the future. We'll see. And then on July 21st, Council gave first and second reading to the bylaw. after the backgrounder report was presented to council along with the bylaw. And then since then, preliminary review is done by the province, just a couple minor elements, which was basically adding a bit more description to some of the projects was the main element from the province. And legal review was made basically some technicalities and a few almost like grammar, those types of things. So those were implemented in the bylaw that's reattached for third reading. Next step will be formal approval from the province. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Council. Any, excuse me, questions of clarification prior to getting the motion on the floor? See none, I'm looking for a mover. Councilor Routley moving it, Councilor Manuel seconding it. Council, any discussion on the motion? Seeing here none, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay. So now we move on to 12 new business. We have a memo from Mr. Denegar with regards to economic opportunity fund request for local food matters. Mr. Denegar?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So at the July 21st meeting, council considered a whole swath of EOF requests, and one of council's directions out of that was to defer the decision regarding the local food matters core operations request, pending further information. So they have submitted an updated request. They've called it the Food System Development Initiative rather than just operations. And they've actually lowered their request by $30,000 and have provided a budget more in the format the council was looking for. So hopefully you've had a chance to look over their updated request. Don't worry about the $1 difference in their request. It's not $69,999. It is $70,000. Maybe we'll split the difference. But yeah, so that potential resolution, if you wanted to grant it, is there in the memo.
Thank you for that. Council, any questions of clarification prior to getting the resolution on the floor? Does it meet the needs of council? Councilor
I do. I really dug deep on this one too, because I went back to our original EOF decision in 2024 and the one that came across to the CSRD as well, which we described the funding to Food Matters was a 1-year catalyst for establishing strategies for long-term self-sustainability. So is the long-term sustainability EOF? It's a question to all of us. I mean, they could look at the budget and you can pick and choose ones that would fit. I mean, and then I honestly believe that $39,000 in staffing or that's being covered, or with 5,000 from United Way, like when you go through everything,
that breakdown,
yeah, the breakdown, there's certain ones that I would like to see go forward, and then there's certain ones that I feel that were covered under that first year, that now it's going to be a long-term commitment of the town of Golden and the CSRD with EOF funds. So
the comment is querying whether or not there is a long-term sustainability plan for components of the program.
When I look at the federal government and then what they're putting money into food hubs, but they're doing it so that food hubs provide affordable food in the area. I mean, they list all the reasons why it's really hard to grow here because of the soil and topography. So what are we building? Like,
what does the future look like?
I just feel that this is a long-term commitment.
Thank you for that question of clarification. It's actually not going to be answered, I don't believe, at this point in time, but it is a fair question to throw out there. Be so bold as to provide the ED an opportunity to speak. You can bring your partner.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Guillot. So last year when we appeared here, we appeared with a request for multi-year funding for the incubation of a food hub project that would contribute to the long-term financial sustainability of our organization. And it was made clear to us last year that multi-year funding cannot be allocated from the EOF. And so we have moved forward nonetheless towards this project, this operationalization of this food hub project, and continue to move in that direction, recognizing that it is both the path towards financial sustainability for our organization and of great community impact. But none of this happens within 1 year. And as we have discovered over the course of the last year, there are pivots and hurdles, and that was the reason that we framed it in a multi-year context last year. And indeed, the work is ongoing. It isn't resolved within 1 year, and it isn't, and our organization also does not achieve that sustainability within a 1 year time period either.
Thank you for that. I'll look to council. At this point in time, I'll look for somebody to move the resolution that's before us right there. Clarifying question, Councillor Cooper?
I just want to ask, so over the years, trying to understand the model, because I know there's been hurdles and there's been things that have stepped back and then brought forward again. What outcomes have been clearly met from the original model? Because it seems like each time it's the request, but then how has it grown? How has it developed? And what are the outcomes that have been achieved at this point?
Well, with last year's investment, what was accomplished was an operational model that we are really ready to move on. And so there is a revenue model, there's a plan, there's supply chains in place. So an incredible amount of work has gone into developing the regional relationships that will provide the food supply for our community and for this initiative. Furthermore, also because of the investment that was made over the last 2 years, our organization has established a presence and reputation in the province that has allowed provincial dollars to come into the community through the establishment of the United Way funded Columbia Valley Regional Food Hub. And so that adds capacity not only to our community, but to our region. And that work is just beginning. That it started last year, and we are moving into a second year of collaborative work with actors across the Columbia Valley to solution food security issues for our community. Also last year, because of the investment from the town of Golden and the CSRD, we were able to partner with the school district to establish a school food program, 2 of them actually, that use local ingredients produced by local chefs that distribute healthy, nutritious food into our 3 elementary schools. And so in a very short amount of time, there are quite a few substantial outcomes that have come from the investment from local government in our organization.
Thank you very much for that. So to get this thing moving forward, I'll move that the resolution as presented, noting that it has our CEO has said there's no concerns and supports the recommendation as presented. So I'll move that. Looking for a seconder. Councillor Routley seconding that. Sorry about that. Missed you, Councillor Hambrick. Speaking to the motion, Councillor Cooper.
Well, I have another concern when I'm looking at the EOF funding, the last document that was provided with the monies remaining from CSRD, from the funds. So we did the pool assessment from EOF funding, but that's not captured in this document. When is that coming out? Or because I'm not sure if this is accurate as to, because it was provided from EOF funding.
Mr. Denigar, are you able to speak to that?
But it's not on this one.
That's the Golden Area EOF to date.
Yes. Yeah. So this is a financial document directly from the CSRD's finance department. There are things that are this is one page of a multi-page document. There are other pages and data behind this. You'll probably see it. There's commitments of disbursements of funds that are not showing in here, but they're sort of already held and already accounted for.
But
So
they are kind of outlined there, but this pool project is not in here. Like, so it is saying that the additional applications that have been approved, but I just don't see it. So I'm uncertain about the funds balance in the UF funding with that, if we
Okay.
know for sure.
Okay, and I'll look to Councillor Otley.
If I recall correctly, that decision was made in 2025, so it'd be captured in that top line at the
Previous year.
balance as of
Okay.
December 31st, 2020.
they refer to as encumbered funds. So
Okay,
the
that's what I
encumbered
was-
funds wouldn't necessarily
That's
show in here.
clarification. we're looking
That's what
for.
I was looking for. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. It takes a team effort. Councillor Otley.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Christelle, for the time and energy of submitting the updated application. Really appreciate it, and particularly carving out what is really a star program within local food matters, which is the farmers market as that direct avenue for vendors, whether they're growers or processors, to really feature their wares or their products. And so the opportunity to support that directly, I think, is well worth it. Opportunity to develop it further is, I think, quite akin to the funding decision with regard, with the funding decision with the food bank. Not so much direct procurement, but more supporting the infrastructure and hopefully, the work in the year ahead will have really tangible plans that are shovel ready and ready to leapfrog from previous years, and we'll be able to move local food into the next chapter. So I appreciate the work and voting in favor.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, questions with regards to resolution on the table?
I guess I
Councillor Cooper?
struggle a little bit with the understanding the separation of the hub supply, what was in the application and what's in the budget. Because when I'm going through, I struggle with trying to separate these projects and seeing what the full picture is, because they're named slightly different, like farmers market development. Right, got it. It's the food hub supply chain network and the food infrastructure readiness. I don't understand the difference between the two and because the food infrastructure readiness is the 35,000 request. And what exactly is that for?
Are you able to speak to that?
Yes, so the Farm Hub or Food Hub Aggregation Distribution Initiative is ready to be operationalized, save for the infrastructure, which we have had a hard time finding a place to land. As you are all aware, we have explored private land, we've explored municipal land, we've explored partnerships, and we continue to explore that because it is critical infrastructure for the municipality, not just for this initiative, but for local food distribution in general. And so that path continues. We have not arrived at a solution for that as of yet. We are currently exploring the possibility of land acquisition for a future build, and that is a lengthy process that involves a lot of research and partnership development. And so that's the reference to infrastructure development. It is also identified as a priority from the local food production assessment that this infrastructure is critical to the development of food security in our community. Second to that is that there is a need to take a regional lens to the procurement of local food, and that involves developing supply chains and working in partnership with food hubs that are simultaneously surfacing across the southern interior. And so our project is not occurring in isolation. It's not just golden over here with an idea. It's actually deeply embedded into a network of work that's happening through the Shuswap and through the Okanagan and through the Central Kootenays and then down the Columbia Valley. And so we have because there was a request for project-based funding, we are identifying the areas that our attention and work will be focused on. And so infrastructure is one critical component, and the regional supply chain development is another significant component to that.
Thank you for that. Any follow-up, Councilor Cooper?
No.
Councilor Creel?
Just one. Is the goal to have food that is affordable?
Yes, as part of the operational plan for the food aggregation and distribution initiative is we call it like a farm credit type program where we would work in partnership with the Golden Food Bank to offer something akin to the Farmers Market Nutrition Coupon Program so that there is affordable access to this. And that is the beauty of a community food system, is that it is not the same as retail grocery, that there are other ways of accessing this food. And in partnership with community organizations, we're able to offer alternatives. We're looking specifically to the South Island Food Hub on Vancouver Island, and they have a model for this that we are following.
So the food bank already has a model where they're buying food from local producers. Is that your model or is that theirs?
That's their model, and they use that food for their regular emergency hamper distribution program, and as well as for their meal kit program. And I think if I am recalling Food Banks Canada or Food Banks BC statistics accurately, they identify that only 1 in 4 food insecure households will access a food bank. And so part of the reason that the food bank was looking at a meal kit program and an affordable market program in the past is to explore opportunities to provide affordable access to the families that wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable accessing an emergency hamper program. And so this is, it's like the middle road. It's the middle ground.
Thank you for that. Follow up,
It
Councilor.
just seems that they've already established their food supply chain locally. So is this like a duplication of service?
Are you able to respond to that?
I would not characterize it as a duplication of service at all, because first of all, we are identifying an additional food supply chain on the one hand, and it's a distinctive clientele. We're not attempting to replace the service of the food bank, or it's not about it being free. It's about providing an affordable option to the families that wouldn't necessarily access the food bank.
Thank you for that. Go. I guess, well, any other discussion on the motion that we have on the floor duly seconded? It's right there on the board. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And I'm going to take this opportunity to do 2 things. One is to thank you for, well, actually, first to wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. I understand there's some changes coming for you. And also to thank you for moving forward local food matters and food security within our community. Greatly appreciated. And what's the name of your partner there? Sorry? Unaru? Well, thank you for being so patient, Unaru.
It's not that scary.
Okay, with that, council, we'll move on to question period. And that's an opportunity for members of the gallery who are hanging in there to ask questions. Yes, so that those online can hear the question.
Rather one to discuss than one to question. My name's Steve Roberts, for the record. One of the things that jumped out at me here is Mr. Petrovic's used the word direction, I think 5 or 6 times. I lost track, and it might help steer my question. Is it possible, Ms. White, to go to the the resolution or motion that Councillor Routley passed that, because
Good.
what I'm here to ask about is a point of question about accountability and basically where council will take this in regards to the pool, the aquatic center. I should have led with that probably, but
Yeah, I was just wondering which.
yeah, I'd just like to review whether it was a motion or a resolution that Councillor Routley passed, what course of action council will take that will be held accountable to from here. Because I do have some questions regarding this.
So this is the motion that council, motion resolution that council passed.
There was a slide from the presentation from the counseling group that gave 3 options that I believe Mr. Routley picked one of that we would recommend a course of action to Mr. Petrovic and Recreation Services.
So
I'd be happy to speak to it. So the 3 pieces of direction were separate items, right?
Yep.
The first was this motion. The second was then looking at the future reports around community engagement. And then the third was a specific option choice. And so I felt comfortable moving the resolution and ultimately council passed on this next phase. And certainly like nothing is precluding council from moving forward with additional formal engagement with the community, including Area A, and any of that. But certainly staff had asked for specific direction around the funding model so that we could have clarity around the operating costs of the project. And so that's where this resolution touched that so that we could begin moving that forward. In no way, shape, or form would that like stop us from further engaging. And I think on those slides, the consultants identified like the potential for a plebiscite, like a referendum on anything moving forward. And so the world's our oyster as for future options, as I'm seeing.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. So I guess my question narrows to this is that in the past, we've had lots of public engagement, online surveys. We've had lots of public meetings that I've seen many of you at. Does council feel that they don't have an accurate picture of the desire of the community for what they need for this aquatic center? And also in part with that, some sort of understanding of the tax burden and the, I guess, affordability of it and what the average voting member of the public would actually be willing to accept for a burden to support that facility. But I guess what I'm leaning to is, do you not feel that we have that information here?
Mr. Petrovic?
I'll take an approach at just kind of like outlining kind of the steps with the process. The work that was done on the past project that the CSRD led was very, very focused on that of an indoor aquatic facility. So all of the efforts, all of the studies, all that engagement work that we did was really focused primarily on that. And the general public agreed that they were comfortable with, a loan in that $18 million range, which is what the successful referendum that was hosted during the last election was based on. That referendum process was tied entirely to building a year-round indoor facility. $18 million was not the actual build price for the project. And there was some very aggressive desires in terms of fundraising, grants, and everything with that. Unfortunately, that project lost out on one of its big granting opportunities that was chasing, and the CSRD basically canceled the project. That's when we did our work on the outdoor assessment. And then we brought forward the project that we're now working on with looking at, fixing what we have, building a new outdoor, building a realistically priced indoor. So as from a next steps perspective, this resolution today gives staff the ability now to go back and start spinning those actual numbers so we can make those public, like how much it would affect if you have a house in Nicholson or in downtown Golden. And so those numbers will be forthcoming. So from a staff perspective, we got a good month and a half worth of work now that we can start doing and refining the options. We're going to gather more feedback and information at the public house in an hour from the open house in an hour tonight as well. And we intend to bring all that information back to council to kind of help further garner the decisions and the threshold on the dollar amounts that could be required for any option. And with that as well, we would be coming back to council saying, here's the costing, here's the feedback. Do we go indoor, outdoor, fix what we have? So it's kind of a next step process that we're working towards with this. But yeah, the last project, again, very hyper-focused on an indoor-based facility, and between the pandemic construction escalation and losing out on a $12 million granting opportunity, we hit a major speed bump
And
in
this-
terms of that
And this
project.
resolution provides direction to the staff on what type of funding model we're looking at, because the funding model as defined by the Golden District Rec Center is very specific and clear. So that provides staff with that direction, as opposed to saying, well, are we all gonna pay for it with municipal ratepayer dollars, or are we gonna have it under the shared services agreement where Area A only pays 20% of the operational costs, or are we gonna have it under the Golden District Recreational Complex language?
Mhm.
And that direction has now been set by council for staff to move forward with.
So the homework continues is where we're kind of at right now.
Is there anything more that you would
Well,
have?
part and parcel with that, with the funding is a question I asked at one of the last public meetings about this was right with funding. It's a lot easier for people to get on board if they know how much a ticket's going to cost, right? And one of the questions I asked is major stakeholders in the community, some corporate sponsors, CPKC, RCR, Pacific Wood Tech, were apparently not allowed to be approached to make a commitment because there wasn't a plan in place now. And that was something that was kind of explained to me by a couple councilors at one of the meetings. And that seemed kind of wrong to me. Like, has council a position that we can approach some of these community employers to seek some sort of commitment?
And I'll look to staff to respond to that.
Absolutely, once we have direction on what we actually want to do. And that direction on what we want to do has to come from council. So once we get to that process of what we want to do, we would be going back out. And as part of this process, in terms of looking at design and options, like we've already had some high level conversations with local suppliers within the community, trades, you know, how we can bring some value add to the project. But right now, what we really need to focus on is just that overall price and operational budget. So there's a high level of understanding of what each option is all about. Once we get direction on those options, from a staff perspective, we're ready, our consultants are ready to actually start looking at those conversations on how additional savings could be brought to the plate. So, and then they'll be strategizing with council on that, on how we look at budgeting moving forward. In that there's avenues and options that we could look at going for a referendum for the entire build, and then any granting that would take off of the loan. Or there's the option of going for a lower referendum amount and then putting the pressure on the project to garner grants and funding in order to greenlight construction. And that's what happened with the last process. We got a smaller capital loan approved through the referendum process, but we didn't have the entire budget to build. And so that made it tricky, obviously, to move forward to full-blown tendering the construction of a project, because we didn't have all the money, or sorry, I say we as in the regional district didn't have all the money to actually pull the trigger and award construction contracts.
So I keep hearing we need direction, but we also need to know where we're going before council will provide that direction. Like,
It's a step-by-step process. And at this point in time, staff had 3 bits of information they needed from council. We, as council, set direction on the one with regards to that resolution, and that now that is allowing staff to go forward and do the next step and bring that step back, because in some communities, they go to referendum for the full amount. And I think back to Creston as an example. They did a new facility there. They went to referendum to their public for the full amount of the build, which was at, and this is probably, I can't remember, I mean, this is 10, 12 years old, but that was $31 million, with the intent of, yes, the ratepayers had agreed to pay whatever their percentage was, and they'd all calculated for the total debt of $31 million, but the objective was to try and get as many grants as possible to reduce that amount. Whereas with the CSRD process, it was dependent upon a grant, and there wasn't enough dollar value in the referendum question to allow the project to move forward. And that's just different approaches. And as you move along a project, you need a little bit more information. Good, now we have good information to set this direction. Okay, we'll get there, and then we need a little bit more information to go in continue in that direction, or maybe veer off in another direction. I hope that provides some
little context. Is not very satisfying. It doesn't give any time-bound kind of commitments from council when we're gonna provide that direction. You know, as a citizen, I'd like to see this. Just a statement. Sorry, it's not a question. But as a citizen, I'd like to see some action rather than, you know, it seems from the average citizen that we're revisiting the same, you know, consultation. We're recycling the same process, where we really should have some real tangible feedback and some measurable expectations from the public of where we want to go with this. And I just fear that we're wasting time we've already invested in this.
And that's a concern, I think, for many people around the table and from it, like you stated, for many people in the community. At the same time, this is a very different project than what the CSRD was moving forward with. Okay. I think I'm going to leave it at that.
I'd like to, well, I put my hand up a few times. So yes, I would just like to comment the fact that, as Mr. Petrifix had said, there was one model for an indoor pool that came out $50 million. We didn't have options. So when council directed back to staff, we needed to have a variety of options that were feasible. So this was the first study that actually gave us refurbishing what we have, updating an outdoor, and giving us an indoor. So it gives us options that the community now can come tonight, view it, and ask questions and see where we go from here, because there's price points identified that we didn't have those numbers before. It was a guessing game. So now we have a solid report that gives us 3 solid options with costs. So that is a huge benefit to us, as opposed to the one model that we had for one larger construction piece.
I would add 3 directions.
3 directions could
3 Class C budgets.
Which is, we didn't have that before. It was a guessing game. So now we have some solid.
Okay.
I'll let you guys go. I want to say thanks for the time. I look forward to what feedback is shared with us after tonight. Was that a thumbs up? I'm letting you go.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
I have an open house I got to get to very shortly.
So, and I'll go to the virtual gallery. I'm looking for any questions on any subject matters on the agenda today. We have one hand up, Mr. Lamarche. Mr. Lamarche, can you turn on your mic? Presently, you are muted.
Is the mic working at this time?
It is working now. Thank you. You had a question with regard to the agenda?
Yes. First, I would like to thank you for the recent letter response. Very appreciated. And then I have a question regarding the pool or the aqua thing. Basically, I don't quite understand why Golden expense, like the amount of money to run yearly, is in close or above $500,000. Well, if you compare it to other town of the same size, they do it for less than $200,000. Is there a reason for that?
And I'm not sure specifically which numbers you're referencing. I'll have to look to staff.
In the presentation, there was 2 towns that were under $200,000 for the for running yearly. So the operational expense.
Mr. Petrick?
Yeah, so as noted in the presentation itself, when we talk levels of service and how these facilities run, the facility budgets are going to vary greatly. And whether it's just a pool that is open for just swimming versus teaching lessons and aquafit, there is a whole level of service conversation we have to have with council. The other element that we made very clear in the presentation today was that a contribution to reserves was included in the draft budgets that we brought forward, and most municipalities will fund that through different avenues. They will have a facilities reserve that funds all facilities rather than specific to one pool. But based on past conversations and direction that I've received from council on this, we wanted to be able to present a pricing that is our best estimate of all in costing at this point in time.
Okay. And I might have another comment or maybe a question. I'm not sure. Maybe more a comment than a question. Regarding the gravel pit, as you know, it is also used occasionally as a landing zone for hang glider and paraglider.
Sorry,
which,
Serge,
yes.
sorry to interrupt you, but we can only deal with questions of the public relative to matters that were on the agenda. This was not on the agenda at this point in time. So those are conversations you may have to have directly with staff.
Okay, regarding the agenda, then it's regarding what the cycling club was planning to do at the gravel pit. Was it affecting the bottom of the gravel pit? That would be my question.
Mr. Petrovic? or Mr. Cochran? And I'm seeing, no, it was not. It's actually the area inside the parking.
Yeah, I can maybe clarify.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran.
The cycling club was looking at, looking for tenure to install a gazebo in the, what would be the parking area near the Reflection Lake gazebo.
Okay.
versus
And that's it? Okay.
Across the road, not the gravel pit across the road.
Okay. Yeah, they mentioned gravel pit in particular, so I was wondering.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
That's
your
all I have
time.
to say.
Thanks for attending. With that, I look for a motion to recess closed meeting. That I'm looking for a motion that this meeting be recessed and the council convenes a meeting close to public pursuant to section 91C of the community charter for council to deal with matters relating to the following: labor relations or employee relations.
Also move.
Council Jill moving that, looking for a seconder. Council Manuel had his hand up. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Looking for a motion to reconvene the regular open council meeting. Councilor Manuel and Councilor Routley, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. There are no reports from the closed meeting. Looking for item number 17, motion to adjourn. Councilor Routley's first making the motion. Councilor Guile seconding the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. We are adjourned.